everybody, and welcome to episode 33 of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who is the Bravo Squad with me tonight?
Stefan, Evil, JD, 2.
Wesker, Stuart Hughes.
And Sam Mercer.
Stefan just kept going, I didn't know.
I was debating what to say, but I wanted to go the Bravo Squad, the squad that doesn't make it out of the mansion very well.
Bravo Squad. What? More Bravo Squad makes it out than Alpha Team.
I mean, I didn't want to be on either squad, to be honest.
Yes.
Oh, and before we get too far, I want to give a quick shout out to another podcast, the Zach and Dean Geek Machine. It's another podcast where they talk about pop culture, video games, comics, movies. So if you're looking for something else to add to your rotation, I'd love for you guys to give them a check out. And their link will be in the show notes. I know I stumbled upon that. And Stefan, would you want to introduce the lovely game you picked out for us this week?
Yes, we were playing the classic survival horror game, Mary-Kate and Ashley's Mystery Mall. I'm just kidding. Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
The 2002 remake. Got to make sure you put that in there. People will be like, what? And there will be, there will be spoilers for this game, but it came out in 2002 and the original came out in like 94?
The original came out in 1996.
Okay, 96. So I don't feel bad if you're spoiled on a game that came out over 20 years ago. So
yeah,
that's my warning.
Yeah, 1996, and then the director's cut came out in 1997, and then the DualShock came out in 1998. Then there was a remake in 2002, and then there was an even better remake, which is just essentially a report of that in 2015 for Windows and Xbox.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you didn't get all the versions.
I think I have owned every version of Resident Evil 1. I don't know if I still own every version of it, but I think I have owned all the versions of this game.
Yeah, it's a game that just came out many, many times.
And for clarity, I played the Windows 2015 version.
Mm-hmm. I did as well.
Because
I played the HD version on PS4.
Okay. Same. Yep.
I have played a little bit of the GameCube version, and I think that might be the best version just because the resolution is a little bit lower, so the graphics are slightly muddied in a way that really works for the game. You don't get any of that aliasing on the edges. It just looks like almost like a little bit of an older movie in all the right ways.
Well, let me debate that by saying the 2015 Windows version, Jill has better boob physics. So
that's true.
How can you argue with that?
It's such an unnecessary thing to add to the game, but it's just so funny to me that Jill, who's wearing this heavy duty body armor, still has this weird boob jiggle going on.
Yeah.
Every time she goes down the stairs, I'm like, come on, how does this make sense in this game?
They should have just evened it out by making Chris have a bouncing sack in his groin.
I have been saying for years. I have been saying for years that we need better bulge physics in video games. All right.
Oh my God.
Like Mass Effect Andromeda does the best they can with the ridiculous bulge, but we need bigger bulges.
Two things I want to state before we get dive into this game. One, this game was made by Capcom, obviously. by Shinji Mikami. And also, I wanted to ask, since I know all of us have played it before this episode, I want to know what your first memories are of this game when you first played it, for the remake version at least.
Who's going to take that one?
I'll go first. I actually my mom found me this game, or I think I asked for it, but she got it for me back in probably 2002, I want to say. I got my GameCube, and I'm a freaking chicken shit when it comes to survival horror games. Especially 2002. The
first ever game we've done on the show where the title actually makes sense in regards to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting this. I didn't get too far. I remember playing it. I remember actually my first girlfriend at the time, I remember showing off this game to her. And I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. I just walked in, did a couple scenes, fought a couple zombies, and then that was about all I could do because I didn't really understand the game, even though I had a player's guide, but I was scared. But I had that was my first introduction to this game, but I didn't finish it till later. Well, technically I didn't beat it till this year because the way I beat it back in 2003 might not count because my grenade launcher never ran out of ammo, so that's a whole different story. What about you, Stefan?
Yeah, so I played Resident Evil 2 first, but something about this particular one being in a mansion felt more eerie and colder and scarier. And when this came out, when the remake came out, it literally scared the shit out of me. And I think it, like, the first jump scare that you can get in the game 100% for sure is when the Crimson Head rises in the mirror room.
Yeah.
And that I like literally freaked the fuck out and ran through the door, and I was like, what was that? What was that? That was not in the original. What was that?
Yeah, that's something important we should talk about later, but
yeah, we'll definitely bring that up.
That stuff like that, I mean, that they added into the game, that it was like fresh and new, and basically it scared the bejesus out of me. What about you, Stu?
Because the first Resident Evil came out when I was like 4, I was always vaguely aware of its existence. Like my cousin
I forget
played.
he's a baby.
Despite me having like the lowest voice, I am the youngest here, except for Sam, who I think is slightly younger than I am.
I think you're right.
So now you're the fucking baby.
Yeah.
Loser.
Sorry to cut you off. I forget sometimes because I was at least like 12 or so when that game came on, I think. So that's why it threw me off. I'm like, what? But
1993. But yeah, I was like, my cousin always played. He played a lot of like video games, a lot of survival horror, and so I know he played like Prey and Fear and eventually Resident Evil. And I was always vaguely aware of its existence. I didn't play it until I was probably like 10, which is still arguably too young to play Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that first zombie in the game, I remember scaring the absolute shit out of me, where you come across like one of the Alpha team members like dead in a hallway.
Oh yeah.
There's a zombie punching on him, and it turns around and you see its face, and I was like, fuck this. And then I think I beat the game 3 years later when I got a little braver.
Wow. Okay, Stu, I think this story is going to surprise you. So, Resident Evil, the title cover, the GameCube version, is the only cover I distinctly remember from my childhood.
Really?
I was not allowed to play M-rated games for the longest time. And so every time we'd go into the game store to get a new game, like I would always walk by it and I would see it, Jill pinned up against the wall with the zombie attacking her. And I was like, oh my God, I want to play that game. Of course, I could never play it. My best friend in elementary school had the games and had played the games, and he, during recess, he would actually describe in detail, that holds up, which I'm really surprised by, in detail the plot and what was happening in the games.
Really,
and
he'd come and report back to you.
Yeah, he would. And I found out a whole bunch. Most of the stories that I remember are actually from what are the spin-off games? Outbreak, File, File 1 and File 2. Those are the ones I actually most distinctly remember. But I had only heard about the game and told briefly about the story. I discovered later I had been told a lot about Resident Evil 2, not Resident Evil 1. And when I was about 12 or 13, I went over to a friend's house and I played a little bit, just like 10 minutes of Resident Evil 3 in the city. And so I was like, oh my fucking God, this is intense as hell. I was scared shitless. It was really intense. I don't think I played Resident Evil until like freshman, sophomore year of college with you, Stu. I think that was the first time I actually played Resident Evil, which was really confusing because I was like, where's the city scenes? Where's Leon S. Kennedy? Where's all of the story that I've been told about for years and years and years? What the fuck is this mansion and these door physics? What the fuck is this? But I still love the game. Absolutely love the game. Resident Evil has been with me my entire life, even though I've only been playing it for like 7-8 years.
But since then, you've played all the games pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning a little background for our listeners. Sam, Christian, and I all went to college together. And like I say that like it was years ago. It was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. But yeah, we all were on a single dorm and we had like a common room. And I was like, after I met everybody, I was like, hey, nobody here is going to steal my shit. Everyone's going to be pretty cool. I'll just put my Xbox out in the common room and we can all play it. And I think after doing that, Christian, Sam, and I collectively had played through Resident Evil 1 remake, Resident Evil 5, 6, 4. We played through a lot of them. Yeah. Like just over the course of that year, we played through pretty much as many Resident Evils as we could for some reason. there's a great story of I was playing Resident Evil 5 with Christian, and I have terrible insomnia, and so sometimes I'll just like crash. And we started playing Resident Evil 5, and I don't know what like possessed us, but we at some point we were like, we can beat this game today. We can play the entirety of Resident Evil 5 in one day. We can.
It's not that short.
It's not that short, no. And so we just sat down. We were on like we were on one of the more difficult difficulties, if I remember too. And we got all the way to like the very end of that game when you're in the temple and the lasers you have to like do all the laser puzzles. And at some point, in the middle of doing a puzzle, while I was talking, I just passed out. Like in the middle of like one of the most intense puzzles of the game, just fell asleep for like 10 minutes. Woke up and Christian was just sitting there next to me talking to another guy who told me. He was like, "Oh, you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, let's keep playing."
A lot of late nights playing Resident Evil like that. For sure.
I think we finished that game at like 6 a.m., but it was worth it.
So yeah,
I also pumped out Resident Evil 0 together over the course
Oh
of
my god.
several months.
We'll save that for another day.
Yes, you don't go there. Oh, quick thing I do want to mention that we haven't brought up yet. Originally, this was supposed to be Evil Dead Hail to the King, as we had posted on Facebook, but due to some complications with hardware issues and it not working, we switched it to this. Yeah. So just in case you guys who do follow the Facebook page had seen a post and were confused.
Yeah, pretty disappointing change. I was really bummed about it.
Yeah, yep. Sadly, we had to drop a game no one's ever heard of to play one of the best games ever made. It was really disappointing.
I know Stefan was hurt because he really wanted to play it. But...
Man, I really wanted to punish you guys.
I feel like we should ask one of our fellow podcasters here what he thought of Resident Evil, since he's such a huge fan of survival horror.
I'm assuming you mean me, huh?
Well, let's see. Stefan loves Resident Evil. I love Resident Evil. Sam loves Resident Evil.
I love the series from 4 on, and I love the series in general. I just
when they stop being scary.
Pretty much. I don't want anything to do with that controller. I can sit down and watch somebody play 1, 2, 3, and I'm just happy as can be. But you give me that controller, I'm like, I don't want that.
Now we have to make play Resident Evil 7 because that game's fucking.
I beat 7.
Oh, you did? Okay. Really... That game's scarier than all the other ones.
But it's not tank controls, and I don't feel so ammo.
Oh yeah.
I felt much more. And again, one thing that makes for a survival horror game where I feel much safer is when I have some kind of melee weapon. Like in Silent Hill, you have melee weapons. In this game, you have a knife, but like that doesn't.
It's not worth anything.
So for those who don't know about tank controls, this game basically invented them. This game is the tank control video game.
Is it? Or was Alone in the Dark?
I mean, it was an early thing, but Resident Evil is like the game that people think of with tank controls. It's the one that.
Yeah.
That's one thing I did like about the HD version. If you do play that, it has the controls are a little nicer. They're not as tanky anymore.
They're directional.
I mean, you still have because people like I know I do, and I know a lot of other people that say like the first Resident Evil would not have done as well without tank controls because that made that game more intense.
Yes.
Yes.
Because it takes 100%. Away all your ability to move around. It makes everything slower. It makes a slow-moving zombie become a real threat.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, the lack of movement, the lack of ability to move like wherever you want, and having to stop to shoot, and just all the little minutia of moving around really takes that game to a whole new level of intense.
The fixed camera angles make every room just a question mark because you don't know what's around the corner.
Oh god, yeah. And whenever you're in a room and there's 2 different fixed cameras in a single room and you can't see half of it, it's just even fucking scary. Like when you get into there are several hallways in this game that you walk into, and the camera will be fixed at one end of the hallway looking down, and you're walking towards the camera and can't see what's at the end of the hallway. And that is like the most scary thing in the fucking world.
Yeah, I mean, and you can. I mean, the one thing is you can always hear whatever creature is in a room with you. You're gonna hear it moving if you're unlike me. Because I actually did play this for sound, but I had to turn down my sound like to a lower. So although if I had it loud, it would freak the hell out of me. So I had it lower. So I could still hear moaning and groaning and claws clicking, but it didn't overpower me and make me get very uneasy. Because the first uneasy me the first hour, I was very not happy.
The soundtrack for this game is outstanding. The save music. I was just talking to Stu the other day about my favorite Resident Evil save theme from all the different games, and like. The save music alone, like it finds this beautiful line where it's like you feel safe for now. Like this is the one room where you can take a breath, you can replenish your ammo, you can try to figure out how the fuck you're gonna deal with those hunters in the next room. But like in this moment, you have a second to breathe, and everywhere else in the building, you're like anything could come from anywhere at any moment. Something is coming for me.
And especially once you realize that, like, the further you progress, the more the mansion is populated. So you're just like, okay, this hallway has nothing in it for now. But after I get another key, there might be a dog in here. There might be a hunter in here. No, like, nowhere is always safe.
Well, those are like certain hallways where if you re-enter them from a different direction, then they populate. I know some of them are.
I know Sam and I both do the same thing now. I think we discovered this together by accident, where that first room when you walk in, and apologies to our listeners, but at this point,
I know what you're gonna say now.
Yeah, at this point, I think Sam and I have the mansion memorized. You walk into the mansion, and the first room on the right is like a statue room, and there's a desk in there. And Sam and I both do the same thing every time, where there's a little zombie that comes out the hallway, and you can just push the desk in front of the hallway, and he's just trapped there forever. And it's so funny to me. He's just like, he'll become a Crimson Head, and he's just always so angry with you, and you're just like, haha, loser. Learn to climb.
I just avoided him in my playthrough.
I think we should back it up a little bit, though, and kind of explain like the story of Resident Evil, like how this all happened. And it's funny enough.
Keep going.
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
Funny enough, it happened in Africa during the '60s. Flower power.
Down from Africa.
All roads lead back to
Africa. There was a flower discovered by James Marcus, Oswald E. Spencer, and Edward Ashford, who originally died of the virus 2 years later. But
or as I call them, the three bitches.
Oh, before you keep going, spoilers for the entire RE series, by the way, where he's going. So keep going. I just have to throw that out there.
Yeah, so this game, while it canonically does take place, the story does take place in the 90s, the actual events leading up to it go all the way back to the 60s. And essentially what they were doing is these three guys were trying to find like something to like make them gods and live forever. And they found a flower in Africa that they experimented on and created a virus called the progenitor virus, which, what's his name? Edward Ashford realized that he was better at genetics than viruses. So he went off to go work on something called Code Veronica, we won't talk about.
No, never. Never.
And then Marcus
and how cool I am.
So Marcus and Spencer stayed and made the Umbrella Company, and they were fighting over who would crack the virus's code first. And funny enough, Marcus didn't want to do it by himself, so he hired two upstarts named William Birkin and Albert Wesker. And so Birkin cracks the code, and Marcus takes the credit from Birkin when he finally figures it out. So Birkin gets pissed off, and he's like, well, I'm going to go make something called the G virus, which we won't talk about. And then there's... and then so they tested on animals, leeches, a little girl named Lisa, who we'll get to. And basically what the T-virus is it produces energy within a dead cadaver. And it replaces the dead cells inside of the body with itself. But in order to produce more energy, it needs to feed on something to keep replacing those dead cells with itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you actually did a really good job. One thing that I want you to help the listeners understand is the difference between the tyrant and the zombies and what they were trying to go for. Because that was something I didn't know about for the longest time. I thought they like wanted the zombies.
Right.
But that was not the purpose.
Right. So the T virus makes the nervous system redundant, basically, and that's why it needs to feed. Hence, zombies. And the differences between like the animals and the human beings is that obviously we're mammals, so like bees and spiders would like grow bigger in size and morph a little bit. There's a little bit of mutation, but with humans, there's 3 stages of mutation that they found out, and possibly a 4th that's never been in the games. But the 3 mutations are from a human to a zombie, and from a zombie to a licker or a crimson head, and then from a crimson head to a licker.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very rare.
Those are like the failures. Like really what you're doing is you're finding the failures in the game. The whole goal of the T virus is like immortality basically and godhood. And you're fighting all the side effects of that, of like people who were the T virus like was rejected. And so when you like, it's usually when you take the T virus, you have to like continuously take antibodies to like fight it back. Like you're constantly fighting it in your system. That's how Wesker is able to be like such a god in the later games. Is
right.
Spoiler alert: Wesker doesn't die because
Wesker's a baddie.
Wesker's the baddie.
That there are 4 known serums for to cure the T virus.
So you have to continuously take a serum, and if you stop taking it, you become a zombie, then a crimson head, then a licker. That's probably my favorite thing that was added into the remake. In the original game, it was just zombies and lickers, but they added the crimson head in the remake and like bridged that gap, and it kind of explained how lickers came to be, which I really like that.
Lickers aren't until 2.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, they just had zombies in the first game, zombies and hunters and whatnot.
Well, the real hope is to create those super soldiers, the tyrants, which could be controllable, superhuman in strength. They'd have all the regenerative powers, and they were really trying to farm the virus out and try to find a suitable host. And the zombies are essentially the rejected host, the failed attempt at tyrant. That was the whole purpose of the tyrant program.
Mm-hmm. There's surprisingly too, there's actually 10% of the people on the planet who will never get infected by the T virus. They could get bit and they'll be completely fine.
And they never really talk about that. I guess we're to assume that all of the main protagonists are those 10% because, how does Leon S. Kennedy or Jill Valentine survive without not a single scratch?
Well, I think it's assumed in like the canon of the games that they just never really get that fucked up by it. Because, like Leon gets infected with several diseases over the course of the games. Leon gets infected with like 4 different viruses.
We never see him get bit, but we do see him get the Las Plagas.
He gets the Las Plagas. But yeah, like I'm trying to think if he gets infected with anything else in any of the other games. I don't think he does, but yeah, I think it's just like in the canon, it's assumed that like, Chris and Jill don't get bit in the first game, and that's how they survive. I don't know if you could say they're immune. I think it's just that Chris is such a badass that he never gets bit by anything.
Right.
And I guess Leon too.
Jill does get bit in Resident Evil 3, but she gets a cure from some scientist dude at a hospital.
Yeah.
Or no, it's not. She doesn't get bit. It's Nemesis. She gets Nemesis's whatever his virus is in her. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different viruses and projects within the Resident Evil games. That's one thing I always appreciate about it, is they always it's never like, it always comes back to Umbrella and trying to make they're called BOWs, which is like biological weapons.
Yep.
And there's like kind of the like, it's a pretty smart business strategy from Umbrella, because in the effort to create like an immortal god being in Wesker, like all the side effects, all the failed experience they sell them to other countries as biological weapons. Like, hey, you want some fucked up tyrants? Whatever that country is called in the Resident Evil 2 CGI movie. I always want to call it Sarkovia, but that's the thing from Marvel.
Yeah.
ambiguous Eastern European country.
Europe,
somewhere in Europe. But yeah, so like you're always fighting these BOWs, and I kind of appreciate that in Resident Evil games. I'm happy that Resident Evil 7 has like moved away from Umbrella, kind of. There's still like the DLC, blah, 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 and like some Umbrella came to like clean it up or whatever, some shit. But it's not like the Resident Evil 7 isn't about Umbrella, which I kind of appreciate. But I always liked that it's kind of the same as like Mario and Bowser, where it's like it's always Umbrella behind everything, and they always try to hide it. It's like, oh man, who could be behind these POWs? And then inevitably, like 3/4 of the way through almost every single game, you find a bunch of lab equipment, and it's got the Umbrella logo all over it. And every single time they're like, Umbrella, of course. And it's like, yeah, no fucking shit.
I can hear Chris saying, Umbrella.
Umbrella.
I feel like there's probably a deleted scene in one of the Paul S. Anderson movies where like somebody's standing there like, I wonder who did this. And right behind them's this huge Umbrella logo.
Who would not be surprised with those movies?
Umbrella stamps the Umbrella logo on everything they fucking have. Their computers, their virus containers, like they could not be more obvious that it's them. The only time they have ever tried to hide the fact that it's them is in Resident Evil 5 when they go under like the subsidy company named Tricell. Oh no, this is we gotta stop Tricell. And of course, 3/4 of the way through the game, you find out Tricell is Umbrella. And it's like, yeah, no fucking shit, Chris. It's always Umbrella.
But so getting back to the story, I actually it's fine.
This is
so
the
what
story.
happens. It is basically, but basically, so there's an accident in the labs. The virus gets loose. Zombies. And I would actually prefer it if Sam takes over and explains why Bravo team goes to the Arklay Mountains.
Oh, man. So this was a part of the Resident Evil story that I actually didn't know about. And because I had always been focused on the Raccoon City incident. I didn't really know, like when Resident Evil 1 was introduced, I was like, why the fuck am I in this mansion? Well, the thing is that there were starting to be reports of like rogue cannibalism in the Arklay Mountains. And
pretty common thing outside the
like it was really strange, but it was totally scattered. So like if you know anything about the Resident Evil storyline, like you have Resident Evil 1 and the events that happened, those are in the Arklay Mountains that are right above the city, Raccoon City. Sorry, right above Raccoon City. Raccoon City is what eventually gets nuked. I think the main part of Resident Evil storyline happens kind of like in Resident Evil 2, in the city with Leon S. Kennedy and all the uncovering and finding out. Well, so the STARS units, Alpha Team and Bravo Team, were actually sent up to the Arklay Mountains in the events preceding Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 1, when they're checking out the mansion. They actually didn't know about the mansion from what I can tell. They were just going in to investigate these rogue cannibalism attempts and the wild dogs that they found. Chopper gets downed, and so they have to send another team up to go check out the chopper. This is where we kind of get into the storylines of Resident Evil 0 investigating the train and Resident Evil 1 investigating the mansion. But so the teams go in and this is all happening within, Stu, correct me if I'm wrong, but like a 24-hour or 12-hour period.
Yeah,
correct.
It's really small.
Yeah.
The first game takes place over the course of one night. The Resident Evil 0, which is like the entire prequel, like everything from like Resident Evil 0 is like Alpha Team lands up to Bravo Team lands. Like that's the timeline of that, and that's also like a 12-hour period. So Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1 take place over the course of one day.
And they intersect in the story of both games.
Because Bravo Team goes in first because they're the first team that goes in. Like that's their mission.
Right.
And then Alpha Team goes in. Alpha Team goes in because something happened with their chopper, which we find out later was Albert Wesker sabotaged it, so they crashed.
He sabotaged it perfectly so that it would crash within running distance of the mansion.
Yeah.
Yes.
He knew exactly how to break it so that it would make it all the way there.
And then he saves Jill and Chris from being mauled by the dogs. So he saves the entire team from being mauled by the dogs.
Chris, this way!
Which I'm still like, why? Whatever, okay.
The reason he does that is because he's collecting data for an unknown entity. And he wants to test the BOWs against the STARS and see how well they fare.
But you don't know
that's what it is.
They never say who he's working for, do they?
Yeah, Umbrella.
No.
Well,
Wesker's
doing his own thing.
Wesker always worked for, it's the basic story is that Wesker started working for Umbrella with Birkin, and they both had this like competition to kind of like start. They both had their own little research projects, and they were all starting their own thing. Like Birkin was doing his research within Raccoon City, and Wesker was using stars to like basically as like test subjects. Like he was developing his own virus on the side. Wesker was kind of in charge of the Tyrant program, and the basic plot of it never explains it quite what happened, but basically Wesker started taking over Umbrella and like ousting Spencer and all the others, and eventually he just started running Umbrella. Like out of the like debris of Resident Evil 1 came Wesker's new Umbrella. Like at some point he took over. He started taking out everybody up top, and he became the chairman. But his whole thing is that he's using the STARS teams, which are like the best of the best. They're like better than SWAT. They are the team.
Which is also funny that this little Raccoon City Midwestern town has this super specialized team. I always thought that was kind of hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not like a Metropolis or something. It's a little city, and they have like this team. They have
the thing is because it was an Umbrella City.
Yeah. Umbrella helped build like the city 3 times bigger than it originally was from the small town it was.
They're basically like Amazon. Like they moved in and set up their headquarters there, and the city's economy just started blowing up.
Yeah, they're
because of that, they were able to because Umbrella is one of those mega corporations that has their hand in everything. They were able to like take over a lot of the infrastructure construction projects and build their like secret tunnels everywhere, and basically turn the entire city into their personal laboratory.
Yeah, because like 2/3 of the jobs in Raccoon, I think, are like sponsored by Umbrella Corporation.
Yeah, Raccoon City was their city.
Yeah, and Chief Irons is in Resident Evil 2. He's corrupt. The reason he put together STARS, to answer your question, Mike, was because there was a rise of urban chaos going on where people felt like they were being used by Umbrella. And so a lot of people were like looting and, committing acts of violence. And that's why he got the STARS in there.
And you had he's had his 2. By the way, does anyone know what STARS stands for? Just have to throw that out there.
Yep.
Sam?
Yeah, I know. Of course I know, man. I want to see if Mike knows.
Does Mike know?
I'm looking at it right now. Special Tactics.
I was gonna say, I don't know if they ever say it in the game, but STARS is Special Tactics and Rescue Service.
Pretty sure they don't.
And I have my STARS shirt, and I love STARS. I've got a bunch of STARS gear. I fucking love. It's such like a cartoony logo, but I just love it.
I have a STARS. Stu was with me when we went to the last convention. I got a STARS drink mat or whatever.
Oh yeah.
A coaster. That's what it's called.
I saw a jacket by BioWare. Capcom a long time ago was selling like official jackets that had like STARS patches and like all the STARS like memorabilia all over. They had STARS, they had BSAA, and they had Umbrella. And I wanted the STARS one so bad, but it was like $150. It's like I cannot justify spending $150 on a jacket.
Yep.
I'm not that kind of person. But I still want it so bad.
I think we did a pretty good job of like introducing most of the beginning of the story.
Yeah,
it's convoluted.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
it is.
This is also stuff coming from many different games that we're just putting together. Because like the time when this came out, well, at least the remake, you had a bunch of other. You had 2, you had 3. Yeah, you didn't have 4 yet.
You had all these other games. You had 2. And
3, Code Veronica.
2 other games. No, there were a lot. It was you had Survivor, Code Veronica.
Survivor don't count.
Outbreak
Dead Aim.
Dead Aim.
Yeah. 0 came out the same year. Dead Aim actually came out a year after this. But yeah, like throughout all the games kind of add to the story. They all add to what's going on in modern times, and every game also kind of adds to what happened in the past a little bit. That's also something I really enjoyed. Like Resident Evil 1, you get some very basic background information in notes scattered through the game, and the notes are a very big part of the Resident Evil series, especially when it's. I mean, that's how you get the story.
Itchy tasty.
Itchy tasty.
I will never forget the first time I saw that on the PS1 version. I was over at my friend's house, and I don't think he knew about it. We were just playing the game. It's in a bedroom. You go into this room, and you'll see this diary. You start reading through the diary, and the guy will talk about he's playing poker. I think it was playing poker, and then he talked about he starts getting. Oh, is it chess? Okay. Well, he starts getting sick, and he talks about
it. He's like, this stupid game.
And then he talks about how they're wearing the biohazard suits and how there was a break and these guys are working all night long, and then it gets to a point where he just writes, "I was hungry. He looked good, so I ate him." I'm like, what? And then something like that. And then the last line is itchy, scratchy, hungry, and then the closet burst open and he comes out to kill you.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a theory that the reason that happened is because the T virus can be airborne for a short amount of time and then it'll die.
Yeah, those were like the first people infected.
Yes. And it's weird too that he mentions they put on hazmat suits because like nobody in the game has a hazmat suit on.
Yeah. In fact, I don't think you ever see a hazmat suit in the series until Resident Evil 3, right?
I think you're right. Yeah.
No one's wearing fucking any gear whatsoever.
I think in 1, it was one of those things where they were like, from the notes, like they were wearing it, but then like, oh, everything's fine because they were all infected anyway. So it didn't matter. They didn't know that, and they were kind of like
they told us we can take off our hazmat suits now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they started locking the gate. They wouldn't let anybody leave. They wouldn't let anyone make any phone calls because they knew what was happening. Oh, do they explain in this game was it by accident that somebody broke in, or was it on purpose? What happened?
It's like it was all set up by Wesker, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, it's him. It's
a power play essentially.
Yeah, he realized that Wesker was the one who realized that you could sell the failures as biological weapons, and he needed to test that. So he needed to see if they were capable of being biological weapons, and so that's why he brought in the STARS team. That's the data that he was collecting. He wanted to see how they held up against the best police force in the world, to see if they could take them out.
Well, you guys are half right. It kind of was Wesker, but it was also Marcus because he was revived in Resident Evil 0 by Leeches.
That wasn't canon back
10 years.
Zero kind of changed the story a little bit, but that's fine. Zero's still an interesting story. It's weird as hell, but
like you said, Wesker. I mean, Wesker did kill Marcus, so again, it was basically Wesker. I
always got the impression that Wesker was manipulating him too. He was getting him to do all this shit for him, because Wesker goes back and forth between being an evil genius and a total fucking moron, and I love that. By the way, it's not Wesker, it's Wesker.
Yeah, Wesker.
Chris. Not fucking once does Wesker refer to Chris Redfield as Redfield. In fact, nobody does. Everyone calls him Chris. He's a goddamn police officer. Everybody else,
would be last name.
It's Chris and Barry and Jill, and then everybody else is their last name.
You'd prefer he was more like the agent from the Matrix, Mr. Redfield.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny. Agent Smith.
One thing I had forgotten about is you actually meet most of Bravo team in this game, one way or the other, alive or dead.
You meet most of both teams, actually. Well, you meet.
You're our Alpha team.
Yeah, you meet most people. 2 people from. Sorry, hold on. It's very confusing. We're getting this wrong. Bravo team is the team that came in first.
Yeah.
Yep.
Alpha team came in second. So most people of most of the members of Bravo team have died, but you're finding a lot of their corpses.
Well, you find Richard Aiken, which is the guy that gives you the assault shotgun. And he's the guy that's all involved with the snake and has a radio, which again, one guy has the radio, which to me seems kind of stupid, but hey.
Well, all the other guys are all torn up. Their shit got taken out. And the only member of Bravo team I think that you don't come across in this game is it Kevin Dooley? Is that the pilot?
Kevin Dooley. He's the pilot, and you see a scratched up eye in the first.
He's in a cutscene.
Yeah, he's in a cutscene. There's a member of Bravo team that escapes. That is in a later game. I can't remember who that is though.
Are you sure?
I know Enrico is in 0.
There's a member that
yeah, but he don't have too good of an ending in Resident Evil 1, so.
Oh, no.
You're not thinking about Brad Vickers, are you?
No, Brad Vickers dies in
3.
Yeah. Brad Vickers gets out. Yeah, he comes out
chicken shit.
He gets
chicken shit. Brad Vickers.
Yeah, he survives. So. Yeah, pretty much most of Bravo team dies except for Rebecca, best character ever. And then Alpha team comes in and just gets their fucking shit torn up, and So we haven't even mentioned that there's actually 2 campaigns in this.
We haven't even gotten into the
We haven't even gotten to the gameplay yet.
Talked about the game. Let's talk about
only
the
40
game.
minutes into the show. And
Are we really?
I was trying to get us
45 minutes in. Let's talk about the game.
Well, hold on a second. Like, to be fair, we're talking about Resident Evil here. There is a deep story in this game.
We didn't even mention, while talking about the story, it's worth bringing up that Sam and I have had a long-standing like plan. I'm going to mention this on the show because I mentioned this on the show. We have to do it. That's how it works.
Yep.
Sam and I, for about 4 or 5 years now, have said that one week we're going to take a whole week off and we're going to try to play through as many of the Resident Evil main games as we can. We're going to start with 1 and we're going to try to play our way all the way through 7 if we can. That's a lot of work. Awesome. We're going to see if we can do it.
Yep.
And as a result of this, we have had a lot of time to like really plan out and get together a lot of like props and just fun things that we've put together. So I have on my desk, I have a little T-virus capsule that I made out of like some PVC. I made a PVC T-virus. Sam has, though,
literally every single document that has ever been recorded or listed in any game ever, pulled from the Resident Evil wiki. I have literally an entire box with probably about 1,000 sheets of paper that has like everything you could learn or know about Resident Evil.
All the notes, everything. Yeah, I love it's like
organized and everything.
It's one of my favorite things. It is what we've done is Sam has essentially created his own Resident Evil Bible.
Yes,
I love it. It honestly is probably like my favorite thing you've ever done, Sam.
I'm really excited. I can't wait to. I even made myself. I got green tea because I couldn't find good green herbs. I was trying to find the plant that looked like the herb.
Oh my god, we spent like fucking.
Can't find it.
A whole year looking for.
It's not a real plant. Yeah,
it's not a real plant. Yeah. We found some like European fern that is pretty similar that we would have to get like shipped in. We're like, that's just so much work. It doesn't survive very well here. I remember looking, it's like it doesn't grow well in our like temperate environment, so we have to like ship it in and just have it for like a week before it dies.
Gonna have to make it out like paper mache and spray paint or something.
Yeah, we looked at like some plastic variants that we could just color. For whatever reason, we found a series of like plastic herbs that looked very similar to the Resident Evil herbs, but they only came in like yellow and blue and like some like weird like neon pink or something.
Yeah, it was dumb.
They're plastic plants and not a single one of them came in green.
That's the worst.
So
I mean, if you know what I mean, those plants do exist. If you know what I mean.
And we'll just have to get a hotel room in DC. We'll do it.
All right, there we go. We're set. All right, now we can do the game.
But well, we even have like we even found like replica airsoft guns that that like have the actual stars pinned on the side of them. The Samurai Edge Beretta 91, which I bitched about when we did Resident Evil 2 because it's a cool gun, but the Beretta is also like the shittiest handgun ever made.
Poor Kendo.
They jam all the time.
Our logo too.
Yeah.
If you want to know why the fire rate in Resident Evil games are so bad, it's because they use the Beretta, which is a terrible fucking handgun.
Do hate the Beretta.
I do hate the Beretta. I used to think they were really nice, and then I like fired one. I was like, this thing's a piece of shit. All the weight is in the grip. It's one of those. Okay, this is gonna be my brief, like 30-second pitch about guns. For whatever reason, people think that like handguns need to be lighter. Like, oh, this is the lightest handgun ever made. You don't want a light gun because when you fire it, there's nothing to balance out the recoil. The problem with the Beretta is that all the weight is in the fucking grip. So when you fire it, it goes straight up in the goddamn air, and it takes even longer to put back on your target. It's the shittiest way to design a gun. Fuck you, Beretta.
That explains why the fire rate in all the characters is so fucking slow.
They have the dumbest like kick. I'm coming for you, Beretta.
Okay, I think I'm gonna
Steyr for life, bitch.
So I think we're gonna start how this game starts off. So we gave you all the background history, and this
what if we did a whole show? What if we did a whole show about Resident Evil and we didn't talk about the game at all?
We're getting there. We're 45 minutes into this episode before I start editing, and we haven't even gotten into the mansion yet.
I love it. I love it.
So about that virus. Yeah.
So it starts off, you can either pick Jill or Chris when you start off this game. Each of them have a little bit differences, which we haven't mentioned yet, surprisingly.
They are balanced slightly differently. The general consensus is that Jill is easier.
Yes, because she has 2 more inventory spots, which anyone who plays survival horror games, I mean, that is a big, big thing. You can carry more items. At least
2 more inventory slots is like a game changer. It is.
And she takes a little bit more damage than Chris does, but she also has Barry constantly giving her things throughout the game, where I don't think Chris does. Okay.
Yeah. And you also, she can also skip the first yawn fight, kind of.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She can also skip the Plant 42 boss, too, completely.
Yeah, Chris, the way Chris is balanced is he can take a little bit more damage. He's a little tougher. And he's got Rebecca, and Rebecca can heal you up a little bit, and you don't have to do the piano puzzle, which is like, it's such a small benefit, is you don't have to do the piano puzzle. You don't have to find the music sheets.
It's pretty it's pretty easy though.
It's not a hard puzzle. So it's kind of bizarre that like that's the big balance in Chris's favor.
It's more important for the speed run.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course it would be Moonlight Sonata.
Which I think I actually learned on the piano because of this game. I was like, I want to learn the Resident Evil song, not realizing that it was like an actual song that people know and love.
The Resident Evil song?
I called Moonlight Sonata the Resident Evil song for like 5 years. Before I heard
calling it that from now on all the time.
I heard it like in a mall or something, and I was like, oh, it's the Resident Evil song. And someone was like, this is Moonlight Sonata. And I was like, yeah, Resident Evil song. It's like, do you think this song is from Resident Evil? And I was like,
yes.
No. That would be dumb. I've got some Googling to do.
Also, Jill gets the grenade launcher, which I freaking...
Oh my god, yes.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
And she gets the lockpicks because she is the master of unlocking.
Man, that's one thing I do gotta say. In the remake version, the voiceovers, they did change it a little bit, and it doesn't sound nearly as corny as the PS1 version does.
They did. I have long said.
I think it's better.
He's
still corny, but he doesn't say you were almost a Jill sandwich. There's something else that he says.
The line has changed from you were almost a Jill sandwich to you almost got turned into a sandwich.
It's very still self-aware of what's going on. Yeah.
I have long said that the Resident Evil remake is the Mad Max Fury Road of games, because the first Resident Evil is like an amazing, wonderful game that I love, and then the remake came out, and it literally upgraded every single thing in the game. Nothing is worse in the remake.
I've never played the original. That's why I was trying to push it on this show, because I've only played the remake. I never played the original PS1 version. But
I'll say one thing: the basement theme.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the horns and trumpets. There's a story behind that.
Nothing to me.
The remake, every aspect of the game is made better with the remake, with the addition of Crimson Heads, which I swear we will talk about.
The 2-hour mark, maybe. The
2-hour mark. But apologies to our audience. This is definitely going to be like the longest one we've had, I think. But the voice acting is made way better. For those who don't know, the original Resident Evil one, they had like Canadian voice actors that were trying to do American accents and clearly couldn't.
Yeah.
So you have this isn't Chris's blood.
Why don't you take this, Jill? You were the master of unlocking.
Oh, it's bad. There's so many bad lines.
Capcom is really... I mean, this is like the game that made me want every game to have a remake. Everything about this game is better, and also like wrong in the right ways. Like, they recognized what was goofy and kind of like janky about the first game, and they made that stuff better, but they still left in like intentional jank as homage, and it just feels like so good. It's probably like the closest game. People always say you shouldn't remake a game. You should remake people's memories of that game. You can't remake a game. You couldn't release Call of Duty 4 just like up-resed with better graphics. You couldn't release that exact game out today. People would fucking hate it. You have to make whatever people remember that game being. And the remake captures that perfectly.
It's heralded as one of the best remakes of all time. Yeah, and it deserves that title.
it's incredibly impressive because Resident Evil 1 is considered one of the single greatest and most important games of all time, followed by the best, arguably the best remake of all time.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, even though I haven't played the original, I've seen it a few times. I've seen the first half of it quite a few times.
It's what makes me want Capcom to just remake their entire series of games, which I'm fine with them doing. I'm fine with them saying like, hey, we're not going to make a new game for 10 years. We're just going to remake all the old games that we have, and I'll still love them because all those old games are great, and I know all their remakes would be just absolutely wonderful.
Oh yeah. One question I want to ask us before we, since we're still in the mansion, what character did everybody pick? Because I picked Jill because she's easier, and I was terrified of this game. How about you guys?
You got to do Jill. I got to do Jill.
Mm-hmm.
I usually do Jill. But Sam and I talked ahead of time. He said he was going to do Jill, so I was going to do Chris. But I also like Chris's campaign because I like Rebecca Chambers a lot. I love Barry. Don't get me wrong. I love Barry Burton.
Barry's just nice because he gives you stuff. Like, he lets you skip the shotgun puzzle. You get the shotgun. He gives you grenade rounds, which was always nice. I mean, multiple times in this game. What?
He's also totally goofy and weird. Like,
yeah. He's also betraying you, too. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's not like he's not doing it on purpose. His wife and kid are being held hostage.
I mean, he does leave you down. Okay. He takes the elevator back up, which does put your character in a bad spot. So that's the only time he really betrays you. Every other time, he's like, if I have an opportunity, like, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. He's rescuer, but he's also like, he likes Jill. He's good friends with Jill. He's like trying to get her out of there. So you get Barry and Jill's campaign. Like, that's your big, like, kind of partner. Both campaigns have like a partner that you continuously like run into throughout the mansion, which is always funny to me because you'll run into them and then you'll be like, all right, like, let's split up and search for clues. And it's like, fucking stop, like, stick together. Come on. You'll run into Barry and he's like, well, I'm going to go search for more clues over here. I'll see you later, Jill. And it's like, there are fucking zombies, Barry.
Barry, it's a monster.
Yeah, I almost died. Barry saves your life like 2 or 3 times in a row, and still he's like, "All right, I got you out of here." Yeah. All right, I'll see you later. And it's like, "Come on, Barry."
He effectively lets you like skip every boss in the game if you want.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people as Jill, when you come across that first zombie, lead the zombie back to Barry so he takes it out?
No shit, I didn't know I could do that.
Oh yeah, I do that every time because you can save like a whole magazine of ammo for your handgun. It's like I'm Stefan and Sam. I'm sure are the same way. We play this game so conservatively, where it's like, oh, I fired 3 shots to take out this zombie when 2 could have done it. I better reload.
Yeah, better reload the save.
I had better reload the save. Like, I need that ammo.
Yep.
Even in this game, like 500 rounds of handgun ammo, I'm like, I better keep it in here. I know I only have to fight the tyrant. That's the last fight, but I better hold off.
I might need it later.
I shot every bastard I saw. Almost every zombie took handgun bullets. It's not the best thing to do because there were lots of Crimson Heads later on at one point, so got a little annoying.
We should mention that. That's part of the game too, is that when the zombies, when you shoot them and take them down, they will get back up as Crimson Heads unless you burn their bodies.
Let's see here, which is annoying. Heads about 10 minutes in. We are now an hour in. We are finally talking about Crimson Heads.
And there's
4 minutes in.
The worst part about the burning the bodies is that you can burn the bodies to prevent them from being Crimson Heads, but first you have to backtrack to fill up your canteen, and secondly, there's limited canteen fuel.
And also, limited inventory space for a canteen and a lighter.
I found out by accident. You can fuck up. I burned a body. It started to light on fire. Then I opened the door. It never burned the body. He got back up. I'm like, what? I burned him. Yeah, no, I didn't.
There's some zombies in this game that you have to burn, and that's part of the Resident Evil experience. Is kind of like learning the map is a big thing. Knowing the map by heart is like, anyone who played Resident Evil 1, like the original Resident Evil 1, has continued playing the series. I feel like everybody could get a pretty good drawing of the Resident Evil mansion map, like by hand. I feel like a lot of people could probably get pretty close with that. But with the addition of Crimson Heads, it's like a whole new element where you really have to debate, okay, is this a hallway I need to go down again? If I don't have to go down it, I'm not going to burn that body. If this is a hallway that I I'm going to pick this hallway. This is the one I'm going to keep using to get back and forth in the mansion. Because this game is basically all backtracking.
Yeah.
And I remember Mike mentioning that too. Like, for instance, there's the hallway where the dogs famously break in through the windows.
Oh, they tease it.
But they don't in this version.
Yeah, they don't in this version because you actually don't ever need to go back down that hallway after you get the chemicals to kill the plant, to get the masks to put into the pit graveyard.
Resident Evil.
Yeah. Oh.
No sense.
Yeah, but there's... And, go ahead, Mike.
I was like, okay, so what was I going to say, damn it? No, they do that scare where the windows break open. In the original game, the dogs famously jump through these windows. In this version, they only jump through if you back into that hallway ever again from the other side. Then they jump through.
Well, the window also cracks a little bit. I guess that's the dog like slamming up against the window or something. And I still jump at that scene. I jump every time there's lightning and thunder. Like they do such a good job with the atmosphere and like tricking you and teasing you in different ways.
I will occasionally forget that hallway. That's the one where the dogs jump through. And I'll occasionally, whenever I replay this game, like probably half the time I go back down that hallway. And it still scares the ever shit out of me. Like I still jump out of my seat whenever that dog comes through that fucking window.
I hate the dogs so much in every Resident Evil. They didn't kill me in this game, but they well, technically one led to my death. But I hate the dogs. Like there's a puzzle where you have to get a dog whistle, which is only in the remake version.
Yeah.
I did the puzzle. I get my shotgun out as soon as he comes running. I blast him with the shotgun. Grabbed the collar, and then more dogs were coming. I just ran in the door and said, fuck this shit, and never went out that doorway again.
Yeah, the dogs are rough.
What scares me, too, is the first hunter that comes across, and it does, like, the first-person perspective from the hunter, and it's like, sniffing you out and chasing you down. That always freaks me out.
Can we, since you brought up first-person perspective, we need to take the film major angle here and talk about something really quickly. The remake did something really, really interesting that was extremely successful at preserving the original experience while supporting new stuff. The original game was in a 4:3 aspect ratio. It looks kind of like a square screen. The fixed camera angles added this element to the story. You know, it got around hardware issues, obviously, with the systems, but it also allowed the director to literally direct the game in terms of its visuals. He could show you what he wanted to show you when he wanted to show you. But, you know, as technology developed, we started to adopt wider screens and adopted the 16:9 aspect ratio, which is what you're most familiar with when you watch any form of visual media. Well, that presents a problem. If you scale a 4:3 aspect ratio to fit a 16:9, you end up cutting off the top and bottom sections, essentially, of the video. And to get around that, the HD remaster added in a slight tilting effect. When you looked up or with your mouse or whatever, the screen would actually would tilt up or tilt down so that you could see all of the original 4:3 aspect ratio, just not all in one frame, which was really, really cool of them to do.
There's so many little things in this game that are just perfect. Even Jill's boop physics. Just like tiny little things, though, that are just really fantastic. Like making I to this day I don't know how they got Jill and Chris's like attire to look right, because when you play that old game, they have like the strangest body armor, and somehow they made it look worthwhile on Jill, even though her body armor is literally like just shoulder pads. She's wearing like a blue tank top and shoulder pads that are
that's in the cutscene.
Yeah,
it's very Japanese.
But it somehow it somehow looks good. Like it looks right in the remake, and I don't know how they managed to do that. I would not.
Yeah,
I would not have known how to draw that correctly if you showed me that.
Yeah. There's like, and to go into more detail about that, like every single room in the mansion is so specific on its own design and how it looks. Like the tile in the dog hallway looks amazing, and it only has that wallpaper in that room, and then every other room's different. Like one room's blue tile, and there's all these puzzles, and there's a bar in there, and like everything is so specifically its own look that the mansion can sometimes feel puzzling in itself, because you're just like, whoa, where am I again? Because nothing looks the same. Like there's dark hallways, but like it's very obtuse in its structure. And part of that was the history of the story, which was it was built by a guy. Yeah, it was built by a guy named George Trevor, who was hired by Marcus Spencer, and he built this place with the specifics of creating puzzles and booby traps so that nobody could get down into the lab.
Yeah,
which is where you're trying. When you get out of the mansion, you start heading that way.
Also, a phenomenal way to explain the game without breaking the immersion, essentially. Like, why the fuck would this mansion exist with all these stupid fucking puzzles and stuff? Well, it was to protect the lab.
It was all because it was like Spencer's design, which I actually love that too, because you find the Trevor family is very involved in this game. We mentioned Lisa earlier. Lisa Trevor is like the daughter that while Trevor, the head of the Trevor family, was working on the mansion, his daughter was like kind of hanging about with him, and they started doing tests on her, and she became this like monster. And you can actually find Trevor's body in the game, and that's my favorite note in the game, where he's explaining that like old man Spencer wanted me to build this mansion. He wanted me to put in all these puzzle things. I didn't realize that building this mansion would like lead to my doom. And it's like you find his body like hidden in the walls of the mansion, essentially. Like after he finished building it, they just killed him and dumped him in some hidden chamber, which is also just super creepy when you find that.
And just to push it further, how evil these bastards are, they experimented on his wife, and then they experimented on his daughter, Lisa, who, for some reason, her body and her like makeup and DNA, like used the T virus to basically make her an immortal killing machine. Like she can't die, which is crazy.
She becomes like one of their. I want to say too, like they tested on her, and I want to say they use her genes because of her her status as like a test subject. They were like using her genes to like perfect the T virus. Like something about her was capable of being like a good base for like T virus testing, and so that's why she was kept alive for so long. Until they
2 years.
Until they didn't need her anymore, and they literally just like threw her in a prison and forgot about her.
And she wasn't even in the original game. That was an entirely added-on piece.
Yeah, that was all
seamlessly.
Introduction. It's one of those things where I've gone back and played the original since playing the remake several times, and I always forget that the Crimson Heads and Lisa aren't in it. They just fit that game so well. They feel like they were always there, and I go back and they're not there. I'm like, aren't I supposed to be going to like the residence right now and fighting Lisa? Aren't I supposed to be doing this? I just forget that she's not in the original game.
Yes.
Yeah, they added her in the GameCube.
Yeah, and just to move us along so we don't sit here all day, what we're talking about with Lisa happens in the guardhouse, and the guardhouse is right behind the mansion. And as you're in the mansion, your main investigative mission is to collect, in the original it's emblems, but in the remake it's death masks. Because in the cemetery there's a long stairway that goes down into like a crypt, and in the crypt you have to put these death masks on these statues in the wall, and that essentially for some crazy reason, and that essentially gives you I forget what the emblem's called, but like there's one you have to put into the back of the mansion, and that lets you escape to go down the path to the guardhouse.
Is that in the original game too?
They give you emblems.
Okay, that's what you're talking about. Oh, one thing before we get Resident, I want to mention. I'll let you go after me. You don't like you have two boss fights. For the way this game kind of does it, they usually try to throw in one boss fight in each section that you're at in this game. The game broken into 5 sections. In the first section, you have a fake boss fight with the snake, where you don't have to do anything but grab an item and run out the door. Which
we're not saying the snake is boring, by the way. The snake is literally named Yawn.
It's awesome.
It's not us just going, yawn.
But I did like that fight because, like, for me, I had saved Richard, and got the serum, saved him sort of in one aspect. So he jumps into the fight to save you and gets eaten by the snake, and then drops the shotgun, which you take. And I really like that.
They never tell you that that's a timed section of that game too. Like you have a minute and a half to do that, I think.
Oh, it's only a minute and a half?
It's not a lot.
No.
Oh,
no,
I ran.
You You guys can literally run in the room, grab the death mask, and leave. You don't have to do anything.
Yep.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, Mike, how does that make you feel?
I only used a few shotgun shells and a few handgun bullets, and I had plenty of handgun bullets.
A few shotgun shells.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have reloaded to save at that point. I would have just killed myself if I fucking wasted a shotgun shell. But actually, one thing I wanted to mention...
There was a point... Sam, do you remember... We were playing Resident Evil 0, I think, and we kept, like, switching off every... like new area or something. And at one point Sam was like annoying me and I was sitting at my computer and I just turned around. I looked Sam right in the eyes and I just started firing the shotgun. I was just like, how do you fucking feel about this? Just like round after round.
Oh
like,
god.
Yeah, all wasted.
We are such survival horror perfectionists that if there was a suicide button, we'd use it just to save the bullets.
Yeah.
Not me. I missed a few shots. I didn't reload nothing. I said, fuck it. Okay, we'll just keep going. And the other thing I want to mention that's also newer that we were talking about with the mask. When you get all the masks, you unlock this you drop this coffin down, which you fight the first boss you have to fight in this in the first section of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that, even as a kid, I remember that freaked the hell out of me. You put this form mask in, it drops down, and it's essentially just a Crimson Head, but a more powerful one that they were probably experimenting on or something.
Literally a terrifying enemy.
He took shotgun blast and he went down in my version, but
I like too how that whole sequence makes. I mean, so much of this game, we should say, is like Resident Evil at its core is a puzzle game, and like almost like a detective game. The first game is really about like solving the mystery. It's about the zombies, but like the actual plot of the game is you're figuring out what happened, why it happened, and who's responsible. Like that's the whole story. And the puzzles are so bizarre and so like fantastically odd. When you find that crypt, the coffin is hanging up from the ceiling from 4 chains. Like you don't just walk into a crypt and there's a coffin in it. Like it's a whole affair.
And when you break the chains, blood spurts out. Like, it's fucking weird.
Freaky as hell.
So strange. But
one of the things that I thought was really interesting, to cut you off here, Stu, is that like
now I'm talking.
Even he mentions that the game is all about puzzles. Even the guns are a puzzle item in a sense that they don't feel like this like super powerful gun. You're like, oh fuck yeah, I have shotgun shells. They're all tools in this game. You're using your handgun to deal with the common infected. You're saving your shotgun shells to handle situations with greater infected, and you have the grenade launcher and magnum for the super special infected. They're not this I don't know, this like super powerful thing. You're like, oh, if I just want to fucking off this one zombie, I could just totally blast them. They're almost like puzzle items in themselves, necessary to get through certain parts.
Right, because you won't get far without ammo or health.
Yeah.
I do want to bring up. I do want to bring something up though about the crypt before we move on from it. So, how many shotgun blasts do you guys think it took to take that guy down?
I thought it was 5 or 6.
It's a lot.
4.
It's 2
5 or
very
6.
easy.
I want you guys to guess because I platinumed this game and I had to do a knife run. How many knife swipes it takes to take that fucker down?
Okay, hold on.
Everyone guess,
It's
please.
either gonna be something really like ridiculously high, like 50, or it's gonna be 1.
I say 20.
It's the thing, because this is Resident Evil, so I'm gonna say it's only like
Resident with their rotten eggs, instant kill.
I'm gonna say it's like 1 or 2.
Okay, Sam?
I'm going to say it's 70.
70. Mike?
I say 20.
Are we doing
Mike's
Price is
the
Right
closest.
rules?
It was 24.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
Yep.
That's gotta be tough to do too.
Yep.
I mean, thank God it's not 70, because fuck that.
I was really hoping it was gonna be 1. And what's the there is an enemy in Resident Evil that's like super susceptible to being knifed. I can't remember what it is. It's
I don't think
it's not in the first game. I don't think there's a boss in one of the games that you can just like knife it.
In Resident Evil 0, the giant tarantula, you can literally run up to it and knife it. And if you time it right, it can never hurt you. Yeah,
you can like stun lock it.
I like tarantula in that game.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I like how the knives in the Resident Evil series only get bigger over time too. Like you start off with like a Bowie knife, and then by Resident Evil 5, Chris has a goddamn machete. but it's still called
Krauser's knife, which is basically a machete.
Yeah, Krauser's knife is like a fucking samurai sword. Like it's huge. It's like some like fucking weapon out of the Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Like it's a goddamn sword, and it's like there's even a funny line where Leon picks it up. He's like, Krauser left his knife, and he's like holding a goddamn sword.
And yet it goes right into my inventory box every time I play the game.
He puts it in. He actually puts it in his sheath, and it fits perfectly. That's not how sheaths work. And then you have that knife for the rest of the game, which is
all right. And as we were starting to mention earlier, and then after you do this fight, you get into the residence. There's a small scene where Lisa knocks you out, and you get in her little cabin. That's where you get a little bit more information about her. But the residence is where I started really getting into the game. That's when, because I spent the first hour and a half, or let's say 3 hours, going through the mansion, scared as hell about a week ago on Saturday, cursing Stefan's name, cursing this podcast. Like, I'm not going to finish this game in time. I fucking hate this game. Why am I playing this shit? There's a lot of that. I hadn't died
yet. All this, by the way, on our Facebook page, where Mike was basically uploading screenshots as he was playing it, and every screenshot is just like further and further into madness, where you're like, fuck this game, fuck it, god damn it.
Oh, I was petrified. I remember finishing the first part of the mansion, and I was shaking, and I just didn't want to play anymore. I was just sweating, just completely uneasy, because the first mansion part is about almost half the game. In one, I mean, not completely, but it's a lot of the game, where each other section is about one video. I was using on YouTube. This was 4 videos to get through the first part, where each one is one video then after that. So it's a longer part, and I was stressed out. I was tired of running around the mansion, because you don't really have a lot of ammo at first. You have your handgun, you have some shotgun, but I didn't have enough shotgun where I felt comfortable, and there were a few Crimson Heads that might have become an issue. Oh, one thing we didn't mention that scared the hell out of me, there are a couple parts in this game where somebody was banging on a door. I'm like, I ain't opening that door. And then finally I was going down the save room. He said, well, if you're not going to open the door, he just busted on in and came after me. And I'm like, this isn't friendly.
That was a new thing in the remake.
It was a new thing too.
I was not happy.
That is awful. That is, I mean, I love that, and it fits so perfectly. But like, when you realize, the first time I realized they can open doors, it was like Jurassic Park. It was literally like Jurassic Park with the Raptors open the door. I'm like, they're learning. Like, they're smarter than me. Oh god.
Mike? What did you think about the fucking sharks, which is an enemy I never expected to deal with in Resident Evil as a kid, like not knowing about it, and then now expect like, all right, if you're an animal, you exist in the Resident Evil universe.
My memory was very fragmented of this game, because I didn't even remember until about midway through the game, and I actually beat this game in 2003 with an infinite grenade launcher. I remembered the shark, but I didn't remember much. But it started coming back to me. Well, no, the residence is where you end up running into the shark and all that. That whole scene is just, even though like I knew exactly what to do and I had a guide, I did get bit running in the water trying to get to where you go into the control room. I got bit once.
There's a great little joke about that in Resident Evil Outbreak, where like there's a little note that reveals the football team of Raccoon City is called the Raccoon Sharks.
The Raccoon Sharks. I love that note so much.
I really like the Resident. That's where I started feeling less scared. I felt more easy about the game, and I feel that part is very contained. Like you go into the guardhouse, small area where people are living. You have a few zombies, nothing crazy. You have a few bees, which aren't important at all, unless you're stupid and take the map when you shouldn't. But I like that part.
This is like where the game built up for me what Plant 42 is going to be, because when you're going through the guardhouse and it's throwing all this new shit at you, like giant spiders and bees and the sharks right underneath it.
Fuck
like
the spiders.
That build up, the build up of all those like journal entries of like this massive plant, and it took out all these people, and we had to like try to contain it and watch out for the vines and all these warning signs, and you know what room it's in because it's blocked off by vines, and you have to get in there to get a key to go back to the mansion. But like that buildup of that just terrified me. Of course, when I finally saw it, I was like, oh, it's just a plant. But
it was great building. It did a good job.
They did a good job with that. And Barry saves you in that fight too.
What? Oh, okay. I'm back. Sorry,
we lost you there for a second.
Yeah, sorry, we are dealing with some pretty bad storms this week. We have like I think there's like a tropical storm just sitting off the coast, just sending wave after wave of thunderstorm our way. So my internet just keeps going like haywire this week.
Fun.
All right, I'm back. Anyway, well, I was about to ask before I was so rudely cut
actually,
off.
hold on. Before you continue, Mike, this is a great cutting point. So you could decide what we want to jump to topic-wise next, and then cut this part out.
Now
Yeah,
leave it
it's not
all
gonna
in.
happen.
Fuck it.
But I like leaving dumb shit like this because I think it's funny.
All
Just
right.
have a full like a 30-second long beep, just like a loud, obnoxious like beep. You know, like the testing noise, like whenever the weather service tests their systems.
I want to keep our listeners, not lose them, Stu.
It'd be like an Andy Kaufman thing. Like people think their radios are there's an emergency test going on.
There's an emergency. Activate.
Oh, fuck you.
Oh,
I know
God,
what you're
see,
saying.
that part. Even though I know what to do, when you had to go down the control panel and lower the gate for to drain the big aquarium, I was still freaking out. It's like 30%. And I'm like, okay. Then all of a sudden, like 50%. I'm like, you skipped 40. And I was getting a little freaked out as I'm trying to hit the buttons and know what to do. And that part, especially as a kid, freaked me the hell out. And I even had a guide. I'm sitting there reading. It freaked me out completely.
I kind of wish that it would do like the typical loading thing where it go like 70%, 60%, 70%. It was like, what the fuck?
I just saw Stu's thing in the podcast chat. I just lost connection.
Just lost connection.
Yeah, and I was trying to reinvite him and it wouldn't let me.
What's funny is I asked a question and nobody answered, and I was like, all right, that's fine. Let's just move on. I thought everyone was just being quiet all of a sudden.
Yeah, us quiet. That doesn't happen, sir.
I was like, so what was everyone's favorite area of the game? Just complete silence. I was like, well, fuck you too.
See, this is why I leave this shit in, because it's gold.
Fair enough.
So what was everyone's favorite area of the game?
Residents.
Residents. Same.
Yeah, I gotta say the Residents. I love lab sequences. It's always, when you get to the lab, it's the end of the game, but the Residents is just too infamous.
There is an exception to that, I think. I think in Resident Evil 5, you find a lab like fairly early on, I want to say. At some point, it's just like, oh, wow, is that like, are we already doing this? And then it's just like, oh, no, it's just random lab. We're just going to keep going.
The lab is always so interesting. You hear about Umbrella, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, what's so great about Umbrella? I just see their logos everywhere. And then you get to the lab and you're like, oh, shit, okay, Umbrella is everywhere.
Stefan?
Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to pick because I kind of see it all as one thing, but I think the mansion, just because when you go back, you really start to find out like how big that fucking place is and like how many more rooms you didn't go into.
I will say I love and this is the one and only time we're going to talk about the movies, really. But
no, it's not. Maybe this episode it is.
In this episode it is.
I have plans.
That's disturbing. But in the first Resident Evil movie, which Sam and I both have a very huge fondness for.
Yeah, we're sharing the special edition DVD.
So we have one special edition DVD that whenever we visit each other, we trade.
Yeah.
I think we bought like 7 DVDs of like movies that we love, and our trade is one person has.
There was only one fucking Resident Evil copy, and we couldn't leave the store without coming up with some sort of deal. Like, I'll trade you Terminator 2 Judgment Day and Tales from the Crypt for Resident Evil.
Yeah, so like one person has Resident Evil and one Tales from the Crypt DVD, and the other person has all the other movies.
I like how that's a trade for Resident Evil, Tales from the Crypt, and Terminator 2.
Tales from the Crypt is great.
I really like the movies, and we're at some point going to do bonus where movie episodes. We'll cover those movies at some point.
The Crypt Keeper is
I love those movies.
I will not be on those.
But the first movie does something that I love, which I always felt like it could fit in a Resident Evil game really well, where it shows like the entirety of the hive and it gives you the scale of that lab. And I would love to see that in a Resident Evil game, like really seeing like the full scale of what the underneath of the mansion looks like. I felt like that was really cool.
Yeah, it's insane to think like how they somehow built that whole thing without like Raccoon City figuring it out or any
Raccoon
of it.
City,
It goes down like 6 basements.
members of Raccoon City knew they were basically just paid off. Like Chief Irons was helping to orchestrate and cover up all of that.
Yeah, but
Right.
they killed the head architect, but like, did they kill all the construction workers too?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
It's always the question when stuff like that happens in any like game or movie where it's like, oh, I built my secret lair, like the Batcave. Everyone always has the questions about the Batcave, like who built the fucking Batcave? It's a secret Batcave. What, nobody knows about it? Who built the goddamn Batcave?
Just Batman.
Is it like that? Is it like that Clerks joke where it's like the people that were working on the Death Star were just contractors? They didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, they just built a piece, and then there's actually like a good way of explaining that in Mass Effect 3, where
Or the cube.
or the cube, where they just put all the people who built it into the cube. Sam loves the cube.
I love the cube.
That movie's great.
But in Mass Effect 3, spoilers for Mass Effect 3, the elusive man's the asshole. But you find out that like he has a bunch of scientists all working on different tiny pieces of this giant construct, and after they're done with their piece, he kills them off. And I always think that's like a good explanation for it. It's like, oh, like they didn't have somebody build the entire mansion; they just brought in like a single contractor, like, oh, here, just build this one floor, and then like, oh, they disappeared. What happened?
No, they totally infected all the workers with the T virus. That's got to be it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is probably what happened, because you find notes from people that are like working in the mansion.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, we're all gonna die.
And that makes the most sense too, to fit what they were doing.
Yeah, I just like the idea of like, what happened to Tom? He was working on the that whole Arklay Mountain mansion thing, right? Oh no, he's gone. Anyway, we're going up to work on it next week.
Oh,
I think I'll stay here.
And speaking of bosses, and we were talking about a little earlier where you actually see like vines grab you when you're inside the residence.
Mhm.
You do get to the boss of the residence is a giant plant that's been sucking up the water in the aquarium and causing problems. And you, as Jill, you completely skip the fight, which I did. It's just a cutscene. I really like that.
Barry comes in with the flamethrower.
But you have to do the whole V-jolt thing. You have to do this little puzzle where you mix liquid. I just
Fuck that puzzle.
read the
I don't know
guide.
why. I always have so much trouble with the V-jolt puzzle.
I just read my guide.
It's a weird one. Yeah.
Every other puzzle I'm fine with. As soon as I get to like trying to make V-jolt, I'm just like, I forget how to read, because it's presented in such a strange way, where it's like it doesn't tell you the ingredient. Like it tells you like the basic ingredients that you need, and then it says like, use so and so amount of like the clear one. And it's like, does it mean water? What is it talking about? It just gives you a strange on it.
I just read the guide, but
well, yeah, no, I didn't have that problem because I had the solution.
pretty much, yeah. I really like that part. Like I enjoyed following the guide and making my V-jolt and then having to run back and administrate it, and then because I watched a speed run actually before I played this game. I watched a speed run with someone playing as Chris, and that fight doesn't look that simple. Like if you actually do the real fight.
Oh
yeah, it's a tough fight.
It's like a 2-story fight too, and the plant can grab you. I think, right?
Yeah. It's got Vine Whip. So I've been thinking about Pokemon all day, but I really like how Resident Evil. Like I don't know if any game as effectively sets up bosses. Like Resident Evil, they are really good about, for a lot of the bosses, they'll like slowly introduce you to the idea of them. Like you see Lisa, like first you hear Lisa Trevor, you hear her like screaming in the basement or crying in the basement before you ever come across her.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like introduced to them over the course of their area. Like you'll get like little like glimpses of them, or you'll see a little bit like Trevor. You just see glimpses of her, like you have to run from her, I think, once. And then when you actually fight her, she like knocks you out and you wake up and she's just behind you. And then
you're not even really fighting her. She just knocked you out for some reason, and then because you're in her cabin.
Yeah. She's kind of like it, like, yeah, she's got like a little bit of intelligence left. Like she is basically
I do have a question. You guys might be able to answer. So she was just living in this cabin while all the work was going on. I'm like, hey, John, gonna go start my shift. How's Lisa doing out there? I don't know. Don't go out the back door. Like
she was being kept like chained up secretly.
Okay.
And then when everybody
somewhere else
off, like she got out is essentially what happened. Like the people who were guarding her were all dead and she escaped. And like Trevor's story it's actually so unbearably sad, where she's just like a little girl that got kidnapped and held up, and like she was just being used for all these experiments, and as a result, like her mental state has deteriorated, and she's basically like a child that's lost. It's so sad, and she's like afraid of you. That's why she knocks you out, and then you essentially have to put her down. Because it's just in your way, and it's so heartbreaking.
And she's also invincible. If you try to shoot her at any point, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, she's an invincible child that's like always in pain,
and she's wearing people's faces.
Always scared. Yeah, she's wearing her parents. Well, yeah, her mother's face and everything. It's fucking creepy, and it's awful. It's like I think Lisa Turner might be like one of the most heartbreaking enemies in any game. Yeah, but like you get glimpses of her, and then like Plant 42, like you said, you see like the vines ahead of time. The one I love is that they break that formula with Neptune, and they break that formula to scare the shit out of you.
Because you don't see Neptune until you go downstairs and start to deactivate it.
You're used to like how this game presents its enemies is it's an escalating scale with like, okay, like there's a zombie, you have to like fight it, but it's a slow zombie. Like you're in a room with it, or you're in a hallway with it for a while, and you can take it back to Barry, and he can take it out, and you're like introduced to them slowly to build them up. And then the same thing with fucking hell, the first boss, the crypt. The crypt, you know something's in the crypt, you have to keep going back there to put the masks on. You know that's going to be a boss fight. You know Plant 42 is coming, you know you're going to have to fight this thing. And then when you're introduced to Neptune, it's just a fucking shark that jumps out of the water at you. Like, it's so... And they do that with the dog, too. They go back and forth between slowly escalating an enemy and then just throwing a fucking new enemy at you. And it goes back and forth, and that's why I think the jump scares in this game are so effective compared to, like, something like, I don't know... I don't want to say, like, Amnesia is a bad game, because Amnesia is a good game, but I feel like Amnesia has a lot of jump scares that aren't necessarily earned, whereas every jump scare in Resident Evil is earned. You're in a game that doesn't have a lot of jump scares, so when one happens, it really freaks you out. It's like slow burn, slow burn, slow burn, slow burn. Fuck you! Oh god. So anyway, that's what I want to say. Fuck you guys.
Okay. And after, like, I was feeling pretty good with this game after I finished The Residence. And the part that really, like, so we were talking about earlier, we talked about how you see this first person scene where the hunters are coming up. The part that fucked me up is right before I got there, I got bit by a dog, bit by a snake, and I'm in caution. Okay, so I'm going in, I see the hunter, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to shoot him with the shotgun, kill him, and go in the save room. Well, I missed, and he jumped, and I was not happy.
Yeah, you were missing a head, weren't you?
The head didn't come off. She just got hit, and she fell and died.
Instant death.
Decapitate, you can't see?
They can.
Yeah, they can just head off.
I thought that was going to happen. I didn't get a decapitation. I just died. I was irritated, though.
Yeah. And I was going to reply to what you said, Stu, but somebody knocked on my door, so I had to mute my mic.
That's okay.
My roommate.
That's everyone's favorite level of Left 4 Dead. Mine's Dead Air.
Okay.
Okay. That was funny. But one thing I did want, and I was saying about the hunters, because I had never played the original game, but I remember seeing the toys. I remember my friend talking about it. In this game, the hunters are all amphibian, and everything from this on, they're amphibian. But aren't they like monkey related in the original game?
I was just going to ask that.
There are also eliminators, which are monkeys. You see that in Resident Evil 0. Hunters are different.
Yeah, hunters are like a mix.
What is in the original RE then?
Was what?
What are the hunters in the original RE? Are they monkeys?
Well, I was just going to ask that because I think there's no monkey in them. It's a mix of, I want to say, it's like reptilian DNA. It's like reptilian or amphibian DNA mixed with a human embryo. I want to say, like they pump it in to a human embryo.
Do I need to bring out my Bible?
Bring out the Bible.
Human. They're human animal hybrids.
Yeah.
But in the original game, aren't they black?
I think that's more of a graphics issue then.
Yeah, I mean they also make sounds and stuff.
Okay, see, my
the
friend
are black.
You're
That's what
thinking
you're
of the
thinking.
Chimera, yeah.
Okay, it's called when I was in elementary school or middle school, whatever the hell I was. My buddy lied to me, is what it's called, because he was telling me they were monkeys, and I had never played the game. Like,
If you played 0,
yeah.
I know what you're talking about just because of Umbrella Chronicles, but I've never actually played 0, and I never want to.
Well, here on the wiki it says the hunter species were created through the grafting of reptilian donor DNA to a fertilized human embryo with the aid of the T virus as a bonding agent.
Okay, that's how science works.
They need to do a Mr. DNA like Jurassic Park video for Resident Evil. Hi kids, I'm Dr. DNA.
Okay.
We formed hunters by mixing reptilian DNA with a human embryo.
Wow. I had just realized, I know I keep talking, but since 97 or 96, I've always thought the hunters were black in the original game with monkeys, and they changed it in the GameCube remake. And I'm just watching the video for the first time of the original one, and they were green too.
Huh. He was probably thinking of the Chimera. The Chimera were like black and kind of fuzzy, so I could see how he would think those were primate based.
I think he just bullshit me. What I think, because he was that kind of person. So
it almost sounds racist. They were black and they were monkeys.
Yeah.
Well, turns out I think he was racist actually. Because he wasn't, from what I heard after we got older and he graduated from high school and he hung out with some of the people that I was friends with before I moved up to Minnesota, I'm pretty sure he was racist. And
we all have high school friends. We all have friends from high school that are suddenly very racist. That
he was an elementary school friend that we had met because in third grade show and tell, I brought strategy guys to talk for show and tell, and that's how me and him became friends. He's the one that introduced me to Resident Evil. That's how it connects to the story.
So you got the strategy guides there. You want to be a friend of mine?
That's kind of how it worked. He used to come over and play games. I watched him because I was always terrified of a lot of games. I had a hard time playing a lot of different games that weren't RPGs. But
yeah,
another thing. But no, the hunters freaking I was irritated, and then the next time I ran through that hallway, I made sure to heal before I came back, and then I didn't miss the hunter. But I was that's the only time I got hit too. The first time you see a hunter, I got hit and killed.
I mean, the first time everyone sees a hunter, it fucking destroys them. The hunters are a totally different kind of enemy.
Well, I also like how it's Wesker who lets them into the mansion after you meet him in the residence, which doesn't really matter because he just says, "Jill, Barry been acting strange."
Yeah, he still like tries to play it off.
Blackmailing him, but is he acting strange?
That's after you like spy on them, like him clearly blackmailing Barry.
Yeah, you hear part of the conversation, but you don't hear who's talking to him.
Yeah.
She does kind of buy into it. She's like, yeah, you're right, Wesker. Like,
no one said Jill
was
smart.
Strange. Yeah.
Look, the smart character of the Resident Evil universe is Rebecca and Claire, all right? They're the intelligent one. Everyone else is just like...
I guess that's how it's happening. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay, I buy it. It's probably not Umbrella.
We'll play into the fact that you're in a giant mansion, things are trying to kill you, and you're terrified and going insane.
That's what I said.
You know, that might have something to do with it, but...
I like to think that that's why they had to stop making games about Claire, is because they realized Claire was too smart, and she would obviously know it's Umbrella, like, from the get-go. Because even in Degeneration, the first Resident Evil CGI movie, which is about Claire and Leon,
that is a really good movie.
It's so good, and I'm thinking now that like the second that Claire is involved with something, I think one of the first lines is like Umbrella's behind this, and it's like, yeah, Claire, like you get it. Like Chris would be like, who could have done this to this airport with all these zombies? Who do I know that works with zombies? I'm gonna have to figure this out. And Claire's like, Umbrella immediately. Yes, Umbrella. It's definitely them.
Claire's better.
Even in Revelations 2, like she gets kidnapped, which I'm going to talk about briefly. Even though people don't like that game, but I really
want to play it. I'm hoping one of you guys put it on the show at some point. I like all the third-person Resident Evils.
They're different, but I think they're fun. I think they're worth playing. But in Revelations 2, like Claire gets kidnapped, and I want to say like immediately she's like, "This is definitely Umbrella." Like this is who's behind this.
I'm pretty sure she uses an actual umbrella in the beginning of Degeneration.
She does. And she like there's a whole little moment where she like sighs about it. Like she picks up the umbrella and she's like, "Of course."
We need to watch that movie for this show.
It's so good.
I haven't seen it since it came out.
Those movies do Leon such good justice.
Back to the mansion. I just do like when you come back to the mansion and you have the one extra key. One thing we hadn't mentioned is you need certain keys with an emblem on to unlock a lot of the doors, and that's kind of how they gatekeep you in this game with the armor, the helmet, sword key.
I really like that. Yeah, it's like you come to the mansion, but you only have access to like 10% of the mansion when you're.
You have more than that. Well, maybe in the beginning, yeah.
Probably like
a lot.
Probably like 20%, I guess. It's not a lot because you have to find a lot of keys. Like when you first start the game, you've only got access to 20% of the mansion.
Well, you had
and the whole game is finding keys to unlock more areas.
You had to find more keys than we had to find because in we were the master of lockpicking.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So
you guys had access to probably 30 or 40%. I had access to about 20.
Because in one thing we hadn't mentioned is if you play as Chris, you have the lighter and you don't have a lockpick, but he has to go find small keys to open certain doors, and it's just annoying. I guess I've never played it.
And this game does the thing that every game needs to fucking do, where it's, you don't this key appears to be useless now. Discard. Even though there's no way you'd know that. It's just you will not need this key any further. Would you like to throw it away?
Quality of life.
I like that. I'm glad the game doesn't make you keep stuff.
To this day, if I ever change a lock or I throw out a lock and I don't need a key anymore, I still think I won't need this key anymore. Discard? Yes, no. Every time I throw away a key, I think that.
One thing that you reminded me of that I also do because of this game, I think when this game came out, I was getting into high school, and I always walk up steps now 2 at a time, and it's because in this game, you go up the stairs in the front part of the mansion, she takes 2 steps at a time, and ever since this game, I do it myself, and I've never stopped.
Oh, you don't stair skate? I always stair skate.
Yeah, stairs.
Oh yeah, speed running. It's for speed running.
So the thing to know about this game is if you press the stick forward or you're pressing the W key, your character always steps forward with the same foot. So you can spam that button and your character will appear to glide upstairs.
Oh, okay, I've seen it when I was watching a video, but I didn't do it, of course.
It's really I've always wanted them to throw that in as an Easter egg. It's just Resident Evil 8 comes out and you can turn on a cheat. If you beat that game on hard or something, you turn on a cheat, just skate your way around.
That would be
game.
An amazing feator that Capcom must introduce.
Look, I'm available, Capcom. Just bring me in. I've got big ideas.
So what about the labs? What did everybody think about the labs?
You're gonna skip the caverns?
Fuck the spiders, man. Fuck the spiders.
I gotta say, anyone that has arachnophobia must have hated certain parts of this game, like when you fight the giant black tiger spider.
It's
oh yeah,
pretty.
Also, the first shot where you see the spider, I think you come through the room and you don't see it, and then the camera angle switches to it's looking at you coming through the door, and you see a little bit above the door frame, and there's nothing there at first, and then a giant fucking spider crawls in, and you basically shit yourself. Yeah, I'll give you a heads up.
What's that thing called? Gray Whisper or something?
What?
The spider's name.
Black Tiger.
Black Tiger, yeah.
There's Black Tiger, and then there's also something Whisper, I want to say.
What were these names?
I don't know, because one replaces which we mentioned earlier, but one of them replaces the chimeras. One of the web spinner. I don't know why I said Whisper.
The chimeras are still in this game.
Yeah, but the chimeras within the Resident Evil story, the chimeras were one experiment that they realized it wasn't going to pan out, and so they just threw them all in the lab, because that's what you should do to protect your lab, is just throw a bunch of uncontrollable monsters in there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they escaped in labs, and they started working on the giant spiders as a way to replace the uncontrollable chimeras, because the spiders could be slightly more controlled, I guess.
Yeah.
Every Resident Evil story goes like this. We've invented a bioorganic weapon, by the way. That's what BOW stands for, not biological. We've invented a new bioorganic weapon. We are going to release it in this area, and we can control it, and it'll be fine. 5 days later, we've lost control of all of them, and the whole area is infected. That is every Resident Evil game. We can control this. You can't control this.
There's actually a real-world article. I think it was by some doctors in Sweden or somebody in Sweden, and they did research on spiders their whole lives. And apparently, spiders could take over the Earth and kill us all if they felt like it.
Oh yeah,
but they don't. Yeah, because they don't want to
outnumber. When you think about any bug, and this is the part of the podcast where everyone's going to feel a chill run up their spine. When you think about any bug, that you don't like, a spider or centipedes or ants. They all outnumber us 1 billion to 1.
Yep.
Every single one of them. If spiders wanted to, they could kill us all and eat our eyes, and we'd all be dead, and spiders would just exist and do nothing.
Just exist and do nothing.
And the Earth would probably be better for it.
The Earth would be better for it, to be honest.
But yeah, getting back to the game, the only thing to mention about the caverns is that you do learn a little bit more of the conspiracy because you run into Enrico from Bravo Team, and he's hurt and he's sitting in a corner and he says, "So there's a traitor on Alpha Team or Bravo Team, and I know who it is." And then out of nowhere, somebody shoots him from far away from the opening of the door, and they run off before you can see who it is.
It's the most soap opera part of the entire Resident Evil series.
It's so stupid.
The real killer is BAM!
Yeah.
Stu, I almost completely forgot. We haven't mentioned the most famous thing about all Resident Evil games, a particular puzzle item that occurs in every single game. What is that puzzle item?
I was going to bring it up earlier, and I was like, I'll hold off on it. I was trying to think of a joke for it. But it's actually two separate puzzle items, Sam. It's not just one, all right? Because there's a square-shaped one and a hexagonal-shaped one.
Hexagonal, yeah.
Hexagonal, that's what I said. It's pronounced
in every game?
In every single game.
Pretty much every single... in every game there is a crank. Usually there's there's a square crank and a hexagonal crank.
See, this is only my second classic RE I ever beat because of this damn show. So... Well, play the game. So I'm not as familiar with it.
Play the games and get the cranks. There's also fucking... I'll get there. There's first aid spray.
First aid spray is just an item that's in this world that is very nice.
Reduces your final score if you use it.
It's a healing item that reduces your final score, and I've always liked that touch. Where
who gives a fuck about that score?
I kind of care about it. I try not to use them because I kind of like having a better score. I kind of like the idea that.
I used one in the entire game. That was in the Tyrant fight because he decided to smack me about like I was a toy. So
what's funny to me is, like the story behind the spray is it's like the thing that made Umbrella popular. That's like Umbrella's main product is first aid spray, and it's like a magical spray that heals wounds. And it reduces your score because the idea is you're using an Umbrella product. Umbrella's evil, but it's always funny to me because like that's the one good thing that Umbrella makes. Like that. Realistically, if we had that in real life, like conflict would be over. It's a magical spray that like instantly heals people. We'd essentially have solved near death every single time. Just ambulances would just be nothing but like we wouldn't even need ambulances. We just have like those mosquito spray trucks that I don't know if anybody else in the country has, but I live in a fucking swamp, so we have them.
We don't have them here.
But we have like mosquito spray trucks that go around and they spray for mosquitoes. There's also like crop dusters that spray like pesticides over crops and stuff. We would just have crop dusters fly over every city all the time.
You just live in a little bayou and just like take a boat to work or what?
Sam's been to my area. I basically live in a swamp.
True. Basically, subscribe to Agent Orange.
Basically. But yeah, like if first aid spray exists in real life, we just have crop dusters flying over every town in every part of the country, just constantly dropping first aid spray. You're like, all right, everyone's healthy and happy, and like this is the best shape that anyone's ever been on. It's basically like a super fluid.
I feel like if that happened, like if I knew a flyby I was going to approach like right immediately, I would probably set myself on fire and see if I could survive it.
What the fuck? I'm gonna let you into a little secret right now, Stefan. We can cure a lot of problems right now. Like they can stitch you up if you get cut. So I don't know why you're not just like beating your head against the wall and calling 911 to see if you can survive it now. You can totally do that now.
Testing the limits of my body.
Yeah. You'll just get a gigantic bill when you get home. That's all.
Hold on, guys. I need to step away really quick. Let me just test something.
Arizona man shoots himself in the shoulder to see if he could survive it.
That gigantic medical bill, I cannot survive. So
that joke Sam and I love about just every day shoot yourself with small caliber bullets to build up
an immunity to larger ones.
There's an artist. This is a fun fact portion of the podcast. There's an artist named Burden. I think Will Burden is his name. He's a performance artist that one of his performance art pieces was he literally filmed himself getting shot in the arm with a .22 by a friend, which is oh
my god.
I struggle to call that art, but I see what he was going for, I guess. But
I would watch that.
I've seen the video, and it's actually really funny because his friend shoots him in the arm, and he just goes like, "Ow!" All right, let's turn off the camera. That's like it's so anticlimactic.
So something we forgot to mention also that kind of makes this game slightly easier than the original would be that you get these things called defense items.
Oh yeah, we
So-
completely missed those.
Yeah, essentially what it is
Good
is you
job.
pick up random knives or you pick up batteries to put into a taser gun because, of course, the stars would have taser guns.
Yeah.
And if a zombie grabs you, if something grabs you, you immediately pull out your taser gun, give it a shock, and you can get away. It's like a get out of bite free card.
I've actually
it's-
reloaded saves because I got caught by a zombie and used a dagger, and I felt really bad about it because it's like, I need that dagger for later.
If it's ammo that
Tasers
can't be
aren't-
saved, it must be saved.
Daggers
I
aren't
really-
that useful. The batteries are nice. They can usually take down a zombie. Usually.
Yeah, daggers are fucking great, man.
Well, you got to remember, I kill everything, so I didn't have a problem with it. I just shot them before they got to me. Usually,
Oh yeah, I like stock up on those daggers because I
I
know
did.
I know later that I have not killed many of the zombies in the building, and I'm like,
I killed almost everybody I came in contact with. There were only a couple I skipped and one hunter I skipped. Everyone else got killed.
yeah, it's kind of funny. The first game, like a lot of survival horror fans play really conservatively. That's just the way you do it. But it's always funny to me that like the first Resident Evil game, you really don't have to play it that conservatively. Like you could kill everything. You could do a kill everything run. It'd be
Well,
hard,
and very
but, like,
easy. Like
yeah,
I played
but
on.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. Which is it's funny. It's like, oh man, like yeah, I have to reload. I wasted that shot. But it's like, yeah, but also it's not really a waste in the remake. Like if you're playing on very easy, you can do that. It's fine. It's
Oh, I
totally
missed
fine.
grenade. I missed grenade launcher. There was one guy later on in the game. I spent 3 shells to hit him because I just kept missing him. I'm like, when I was in the labs, I didn't give a shit. But I'm like, okay, come on now, do it. And he went boom, and I'm like, okay, problem solved.
Yeah. On hard difficulty though, you do have to play it like a survival horror.
Yes.
Every freaking shot counts. You
That's
can't
when it
waste
really
one.
gets-
I
really
still
gets-
can't
yeah.
believe you platinum this game.
It was fun. Oh yeah. One of the things we didn't mention as well is that there's different modes in the game that you have to play through to platinum it. One of them is invisible enemy mode. One of them is all the enemies are invisible.
How
It's
would
pretty
you
self-explanatory.
Yes.
How?
Invisible
Yep.
enemy mode. What's that?
I
The
know.
enemies are invisible, Mike. They clearly just made it
Invisible
name.
zombie mode. What?
Look at
Metal
that.
Gear voice.
Yeah.
Invisible
Don't forget-
zombie mode.
Tofu's only in 2, isn't it?
Yes.
Tofu's into
Yeah.
and you have to beat the game on hard, right? Or you have to beat the game in 3 hours or something to get Tofu? I can't remember.
Yeah. And in this game too, for the platinum, you do have to beat it in under 3 hours, I think.
I love the tofu in Resident Evil 2. That's such a clever little like Easter egg to unlock. That's so funny to me. It's like zombies, they're not vegetarian, so if you play as tofu, obviously you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Stefan, do you know how much time does the door loading animation take in a speedrun?
Like all of them put together?
Yeah. Because it adds a significant portion of time.
I'm trying to think, like, the door itself is what, like 2 seconds? 3 seconds?
I would say it's like 5, and then overall it'd probably be like 15 minutes of door animations.
It's
Because
definitely
when I had to beat it to get that trophy under 3 hours or whatever, I beat it in 1 hour and 58 minutes.
Damn.
So I want to say that like I got out of the mansion in like 20 minutes or less.
Holy
And
shit.
that was and then so the door animations, I'm gonna say like you probably go through like 20 doors, so like 5 times 20 is probably like a minute. I don't know.
I have always secretly wanted to have that door animation in real life. Like I've always wanted to like, and whenever I go through a door, to have the door like framed in complete blackness and open up and just phase through it. It's just, I love that door animation so much. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it's such a staple of the series, but like I feel like in Resident Evil 4, when they realized that they like needed to change the doors, and they added the ability to like kick doors open ridiculously fast. I feel like that was specifically put in because they were like, well, we can't have the old animations. We have to create something new and equally ridiculous and lovable. So like, all right, we're gonna make it so you can drop kick every single door open if you want to.
I love the fact in RE4 you could do that.
It's
But
great.
if we were
No one has ever opened a door normally in Resident Evil.
Oh yeah.
You either
super
phase
slow or
through-
super fast.
you either phase
Yeah.
through a black void or you kick the shit out of it. There's no in between.
One more
zombies-
extra thing.
The zombies open the door more normally than you do.
That's actually
Stefan.
true. One more mode that they added on to this too that scares the living shit out of me still to this day is there's a Bravo team member called Forest Sprayer, who dies on a balcony because crows eat him. They eat his eyes out. Yeah,
Something
and
like that.
Also, everything else.
and the mode is called One Dead Zombie, I think, or One Crazy Zombie. And what it is you play through the game regularly, except for Forest Sprayer chases after you. And you can't use defense items on him. You can't shoot him because he's strapped with grenades all over his body.
Holy
And
shit.
the mansion will explode if you even touch him.
Did you have to do that for the platinum?
Thank God, no.
Oh, okay.
I like how they added like something worse than Nemesis.
Yeah, that mode is actually in the original GameCube remake too.
Something really small about
Mhm.
the remake that I love is the different items, the item relocation. It's like they
Oh, yeah.
you go in
That
with
didn't mean
like,
anything to me.
well, yeah, because you didn't play the original, but
I know.
it's one of those tiny things that's perfect for like diehard fans is because when you played the original Resident Evil, that's what you did. You kind of memorized the map, and you like what I usually do whenever I play Resident Evil is I like to like print out a map. I like having a physical map with me, or having like one on my phone, or I guess now my tablet would be really good, and mark off areas. But for people who played the original Resident Evil a lot, they kind of started to memorize like, okay, I know going in that there's handgun ammo here, there's herbs over there, I know where everything is. And it's just a tiny little game mode, a tiny little feature in Resident Evil Remake. They added a standard game mode where all the items are in the same place, or an item relocation mode where they shuffle up where everything is. And I love that. That's like it's one of those tiny little things that Capcom didn't have to do, but it just fits in that game so well. It's like, hey, people who know this game like the back of their hand, now it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be like playing it for the first time because everything's in a new location.
Oh, and before we jump into the labs, we probably should get to that. I did want to say one thing about the caverns. Like, the caverns aren't very big, but I just like them for some reason.
I just realized that we're gonna end up talking about this game longer than it took Stefan to beat the game.
Probably not, but we're getting there. Stefan was like, you said 3 hours, or was it under 2 hours?
Hour
I
58.
beat it in hour 58.
Oh god, yeah, 100%. This episode will go longer than it takes Stefan. Yeah,
We are at the hour 58 recording mark, so even if we edit this down, it's
I
Hour
kept
53.
freaking out too because I was like, "Oh my god, I got out of the mansion in 20 minutes. Was that fast enough? I don't know."
that's always the thing with speedruns is like
Yeah,
you gotta know right off the back, like, could I have shaved off a couple seconds with what I just did?
exactly. And then that one time you like went down the hallway and you're like, "Oh wait, no, it's not this door." And then you have to go back out and you're like,
Yeah.
"Damn, that was like 30 seconds."
Yeah, just wasted all the time.
Yep.
still can't beat this game in under 2 hours for that achievement.
It's hard. It's you gotta know where everything is pretty much.
I mean, I was reading a guide and I beat this game in 6.5 hours, and I was pausing whenever I was reading. So I don't know if that stops the clock or not.
It's always the same thing because I've platinumed 1 through 7. I still need to do 0, and it's always the same thing when I see that like that foreboding time that I have to beat and know how long the game is from playing it previously. It's like, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't understand how I'm going to do this, and then somehow I always do it, and you're like, it's just weird. It's just a weird phenomenon.
Everything in Resident Evil feels like it
Phenomenal.
takes longer than it actually does.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like you
if,
can get so far in half an hour, but you feel like you haven't made any progress.
that's how I felt
Mhm.
constantly, but I didn't make a lot of progress.
Unless you
That's
like-
what I was reading.
Unless you know the game like so well, you're like, man, I've only made it through like 5 or 6 rooms. It's like, yeah, but that's a lot of rooms. Like that's
Right.
a lot of the mansion.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
man, I've
one
only
thing I-
found 3 keys. It's like, well, that's almost all the keys.
What'd you guys think of the Lisa fight when you finally get to the end of the caverns and you did fight Lisa, which has been a long time coming, where you're being chased by her?
Mhm.
Just sad. Just everything
Yeah.
about this. is
I
sad.
died in that fight the first time. I was stupid.
Who gave Barry back his gun?
Oh yeah, I give Barry back his gun, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
take your gun, shoot her, please.
Because you know Barry, like even though the game is like, oh, Barry might be like trying to betray you, it's like, nah, it's Barry. Like it's Barry. Barry has never once given the sense of like a traitor or like a Weasley guy. You always know Barry has a good heart.
Wesker has
like
that
Wesker.
classic. He has the glasses, the sunglasses, classic villain attire.
Wesker
Right.
wearing the
Yep.
fucking aviators at night with the spiky hair, the spiky blonde hair. He is like the most 90s villain of all time. And just the way he sounds too. He's like, Chris, I'm gonna go do this. You stay here. It's like, well, yeah, you're bad. You're the bad guy.
I died in that fight because I pushed a block on the left, and I went to go push the block on the right, and I knew she'd hit me, but I'm like, oh well, I'll just get hurt. No, you get pushed off the edge and die.
Yeah. What Mike's talking about is you have to push the blocks to open up her mother's crypt, which kind of like distracts her, makes her go insane. She grabs her mother's like head and skull and jumps off the ledge.
That's the end of her, which was
it's
a weird scene, but I liked it. And then you get to what Sam had wanted to mention earlier. You get to the labs.
Actually,
yes.
Say one more heartbreaking thing about Lisa is that the fall doesn't ever even.
Yeah, she survives the fall.
She survives the fall. What kills her is, or what is assumed to have killed her, is the mansion exploding. You just like assume that killed her. Really, like they've never confirmed Lisa's death, have they?
No, and they also, I think it's in a report or something too, that the tyrant survives the explosion too, and it goes towards Raccoon.
So
I thought he died when you shot him with a rocket launcher in the end.
Well, depending on what ending you get, I should say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, also you shoot a tyrant in Resident Evil 2 with a rocket launcher, and it still comes back. So
not when I played. I beat it. I don't remember doing that.
In Resident Evil 2?
I didn't do the second playthrough.
Oh yeah, Mike only beat half the game.
Hey, now I saw an ending. I got credits.
But yeah, that makes me think like the tyrant survives, and like Wesker has like the tyrant formula. So yeah, I'm actually wondering about this now. Could Lisa have survived the mansion explosion? And even if she survived that, would she have survived Raccoon City getting nuked? Like, I wonder if Lisa's still out there.
That would be cool. If
like that'd be such a great plot. Like if that was the plot of Resident Evil 8 or something. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. Just had a brilliant idea. Capcom, listen the fuck up. Resident Evil 8, you are a team sent into the ruins of Raccoon City because you've heard reports something happening. There's some life form still existing in the ruins of Raccoon City. And like maybe people are coming in to rebuild, and like there's a little bit of like township being built up. And fucking Lisa Trevor is still wandering around somewhere in the ruins of Raccoon City. That'd be amazing.
That'd be cool, actually.
Fucking make it happen, Capcom. I'm just kidding. Work on Resident Evil 3 Remake. But after that, make it happen.
I think that's what's coming next.
That's absolutely what's coming next.
Which I don't care, but yeah, that's just me. I'm not the one. I'm not the normal one of this group.
Hashtag bring Lisa back.
Okay, but I mean, and then when you get into the labs, like as we were mentioning earlier, that's where every RE starts to kind of culminate into the end. And then for this would have been your first experience with it. And I actually died in this first room in the lab with the two asshole zombies that are right there. So I didn't burn them. I shot both of them, and the guy didn't tell me to burn them. So I run downstairs. I'm doing some stuff, and I go back upstairs, and it was less than 10 minutes. And the Crimson Head gets his ass back up, comes on the stairwell with me, and fights me on the stairwell, and I can't shoot him. And I'm trying to run up the stairs, and I have no heal items because I don't carry any, and I just keep getting hit. And I'm like, I'm almost there. And then she goes, ah! And I'm like, fucking game. So as soon as I came back, I shot both of them with the handgun, burned both their bodies immediately. There was no playing around this time. I'm like, you're done.
Well,
we're not dealing with this
correct me if I'm wrong, but like, are they naked in this version? I don't remember.
Not on very easy.
Okay, because in the original, all the zombies in the lab are running around naked. Like, they have no clothes on.
It's normal and hard.
Not on very easy. Like the zombies are somehow stronger.
I don't know. In the guide, it would say, if you're on hard, normal or hard, there's a naked zombie in that room. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I don't think the more difficult the game is, the more dicks you have to see. More games should do that as a difficulty thing. It's like it's either that's great because regardless of whether or not like you hate seeing dicks or you like seeing more dicks and stuff, it's like it works because I have to play very hard to see more dicks, or oh man, if I play very hard I have to see like it's either a difficulty thing or a reward.
I really wish we had Elena on this episode right now. This would be funny. She made a comment. Yeah, about when we were playing Majora's Mask. That was not in the recording, but it would have been funny. Okay. But yeah, no, none of the ones I had to fight were naked. They all had clothes on. Most of them got burned. I had a few flame shells, which got used to light up everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a little Easter egg, too, in the labs where you have to interact with a computer. And one of the usernames you have to type in is John. And you find out later in Resident Evil 2 that John is dating Ada, who is another main character in that story.
It's also like she just mentions that her boyfriend's name is John. And I like how everyone's like, well, it's clearly that John. John is a very specific name. Two people can't have the same name, John.
Well, I think his password is Ada. That's why it's the connection that's there. But yeah.
Is it that computer or the device you load the MO discs that's definitely a GameCube?
Oh, the MO disc.
Yeah.
Definitely a GameCube.
Yeah.
Which was funny.
Yeah.
But that's a part of the game where like you start coming across the chimeras, and those to me are the freakiest enemy. Like those freak me out. The chimeras are the actual they're not all black, but they have like black. Oh god, it's hard. How do you describe the chimeras? They're like every animal mixed together.
It looks like a really ugly bug.
Yeah, that's actually a good way of saying it. They're like an ugly. They're like something out of Stalker, realistically. Like
oh man, you and that fucking game.
That fucking game. I really like that actually.
That was one of my most. Man, that's when I realized how much I love this show when I beat that game because
that's a hard game to beat. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it is.
They look like some weird mutation. They've got they look like they've got like cricket parts coming off of them, and they've got like exoskeletons, but they've also clearly got like mammalian features, and they're kind of hair. They're not really like fuzzy like bugs are. They're like hairy. They're so creepy, and they're very dark. Like they're very like they are almost black, but they've got just enough light to them in the remake that you can make out features.
Yeah, and they're like black husks. Yeah.
They die really easy though.
Like clicking noise. Oh my god, they freak me out. I don't know why they freak me out so much.
I mean, at least I'm very easy. I mean, there's a lot of them too. Like for the most part of this game, you don't have to fight that many enemies, but when you get to that part, you fight a lot of shit.
Yeah, because there's even a little like area where you have to crawl through vents in the coolers, and the chimera will follow you through the vent, and they'll crawl out of it.
Actually, kind of cool.
It's creepy as shit.
You know what
I like it.
You know what they look like? They look like Brundlefly.
What?
Brundlefly, which is what Jeff Goldblum turns into in The Fly.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's kind of like the general look they have.
Too bad the chimera won't just like come up to you and grab your magnum and put it to their head.
Or just have like, oh man, I really want like a mod of Resident Evil now where they just replace the chimera noises with like Jeff Goldblum's laugh. like you're in the laugh.
Only if it's the laugh from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, specifically the laugh from Jurassic Park, where he's like, like you just hear that in the vents. Like, oh god, what the fuck is that?
No, someone's gonna make that mod just for you.
Oh, please do. I used to have that laugh as my ringtone for Sam. I think it was either for you, Sam, or it was for Christian. I can't remember who it was for.
I thought it was for Riley. Now
maybe it was for Riley. Yeah. Yeah, that laugh was the ringtone, and it was so funny, but it was so annoying that I had to change it.
All right. One thing we should mention as you're getting deeper in the labs, like after you get the Chimera. I mean, the labs are pretty short, but I did like how you have to rescue your team member, or Chris or Jill, whoever you're playing as, using the GameCubes to unlock it.
Do fucking nothing.
Yeah. Nothing.
Chris is like the biggest badass, but if you rescue him as Jill, he's just like, all right, I'll meet you in the helicopter. It's like, okay.
Did you guys ever have any problem with the Tyrant fight in the one downstairs?
That's actually no. That's like the easiest Tyrant fight I think in the whole series.
It was. Yep. It was. I mean, I shot him to make him like 2 or 3 times, and he was done.
Yep.
Yeah, you can beat him pretty easily with like even like knife runs. I'd say that's not the hardest enemy to knife to death.
It's that, you know what? Going back to what you were saying earlier, I think it does take 1 or 2 slashes and he goes down.
Is that what it is?
It's so easy. It's super easy.
Yeah, it's great because that's like a tiered fight. Like that's another fight where it's like you fight him once and then you have to fight him again, and like that's the real fight at the end of the game.
That fight is hard
when the Tyrant comes back, and that's different.
Yeah,
it wasn't hard for me, but I could see it being hard.
So I have to wonder if like that first part was specifically easy because they were like, okay, this is us introducing you to the Tyrant, and we're gonna make you think that he's easy to beat, but he's gonna come back and he's gonna kick your ass.
I really did love that part where you had the Tyrant and then Wesker wakes him up and he just smacks Wesker across the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he should explain that.
Yeah. So at this point in the game, you still aren't quite sure Wesker's. If you're playing as Chris Chris, the fucking dumbass, is still like, Wesker, what are you doing down here in these labs? And he's like, Chris, hello. It's like,
have you not figured this out yet, Chris?
Yeah, like Wesker has to tell you that he's the bad guy. And he shoots Rebecca in the fucking chest.
What?
And she goes down like a sack of fucking potatoes.
I did not see this.
Well, because you played as Joe. And you don't get Rebecca if you play as Joe.
No, not
Wesker turns to Chris. He's like, "Oh, you sly dog! You got me monologuing."
Yeah, yeah.
That actually a line in there.
No.
I can see it. Okay, I can see it. Sorry,
but it's not from Resident Evil.
Okay,
it's from Incredibles. But that's actually, yeah, Wesker and Syndrome have very similar temperaments.
They do.
He's like, Chris, you're here. You found it out. And even Chris is like, found out what, Wesker? He fucking drops Rebecca. And Chris is like, whoa, are you the bad guy? And it's like, fucking, yeah, Chris, he's the bad guy. You figured it out. I always wish there was like confetti and air horns at that point where it's like, yeah, you got it, Chris. Yay, you figured it out. After Wesker literally shot somebody in the chest. Yeah, then Wesker is like goes on this huge monologue about how like he calls the Stars team his little piggies.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's awkward even in the remake. I can't remember the original line in the first game, but it's like,
oh god,
it's something really weird.
Yeah, Chris starts laughing in the original game, like he just laughed, and like, Wesker's like, Chris, stop it.
Yeah,
just stop.
Chris like loses his mind very briefly for some reason. But in the remake, he's like Chris has like a weird line where he's like, when did you start taking paychecks from Umbrella? And he's like, I've always worked for Umbrella. Actually, they work for me. Umbrella is mine, and the Stars team are my little piggies. It's like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing people say, Wesker. There's other animals that are known for being like indentured animals. Nobody uses pigs that way.
Oh, that is terrible. I'll stick with my ending.
They're my dancing monkeys, or like, I've had you on a leash. Nobody says they're my little piggies in a non-sexual context. The Stars team, my little piggies. And then he is like, yes, it was me the whole time, blah, 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 and checks himself with the T-virus because he, this is where like he reveals that he was working for Umbrella, but like he is now, this is his official takeover. This is like where he's gone public about his takeover. He releases in the newspaper, there's a headline. But yeah, he like injects himself with a virus. He's like, now I'll be a god. And then the fucking tyrant bitch slaps him to the goddamn ground. And you're like, all right, fighting you now.
I don't think that's in Jill's version. I didn't see him inject himself unless I wasn't paying attention. But you do have Barry pulls the gun on you. And then I think he's going to shoot Jill or something. And then Barry comes back and shoots somebody.
He shoots the gun out of Wesker's hand.
Okay.
But Wesker definitely injects himself in Jill's version too, right?
Oh, I must have not been paying attention or something.
Oh, he doesn't?
Okay.
He doesn't.
Oh, okay. I guess Wesker was always like Chris's baddie.
Yeah. Barry
Especially
shoots the gun out of his hand and then shoots him in the shoulder. And before he can go over there and stop him, he presses the button to release the tyrant.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
This is another reason I like the Chris version because, in the Chris version, the tyrant like straight up bitch slaps Wesker like into a fucking wall.
I think he still bitch slaps him in my version too, maybe, or was he just got shot? And that's what I'm thinking.
He gets completely impaled.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just like, it's like, that's odd. And my favorite part about that is it's set up as like, well, that's obviously the end of Wesker. It's like, okay.
Well, it was for years. I mean, Code Veronica, I don't think he's in the regular Code Veronica. He's not until Code Veronica X.
Yeah, but it's just like he's in the regular.
Oh, he's in the regular too?
They just added more scenes with him in X.
Okay, this is coming from a guy who never played Code Veronica.
It'd be like if at the end of Super Mario, like the first Super Mario, you dunk Bowser in the lava and Mario like rubs his hands together or something. And he's like, well, that's the end of that. Like that problem's solved forever.
Peach is like, wasn't that weird when he called us his little piggies?
Yeah. The tyrant says that.
I'm very happy I did not hear that part.
I'm just waiting for the end credits to roll, and then you just hear, Chris!
Why does I feel like that should be the ending of 5?
I feel
Oh no.
okay. I'm going to ask this to you guys, and I'm also just going to throw this question out there into the ether. Does anyone feel like Wesker still isn't dead? Like I still worry that he's out there somewhere.
They killed him when they introduced his son.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like that. See, that to me is even more like he could come back, because I'm like, there's going to be some. They could easily do another like action game where they've got Jake Miller captured in a lab somewhere, and they're using him to rebuild Wesker. Like that's totally a thing that would happen in Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope he's dead. I will be annoyed if they bring him back.
I will
Sorry,
too.
Capcom.
But I'm always gonna have that fear. I'm always like, Wesker could be out there somewhere. Like you never know, because you always think he's like completely dead. You're like, well, there's no way he could come back from this. And he comes back. Like there's gonna be one fucking cell, like one skin cell that they find in the volcano, and they're like, with this we can recreate Wesker.
$1 million man.
And then after you do that part, and you end up rescuing your partner, that's when you finally go up in the helipad that you've been trying to get to this entire damn game, because all you've been trying to do is escape. And I did like when the tyrant just bursts through the freaking ground and comes out, ready to murder you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. It's
because yeah.
That's when you really get the sense of
you shot him with a Magnum. Well, I shot him with a Magnum. I'm assuming almost everyone saves the Magnum for that fight.
I usually use the Magnum in the because they give you the room where you can like the first room the tyrant is introduced in is the best Resident Evil room ever created, because it's just a square room with computers in the center, and so you can just run around in circles. Like that room was designed for a Resident Evil fight perfectly. And so I usually use the Magnum there, and then in the helicopter fight I just waste some time until you can get the rocket launchers.
Okay, so you can just Stefan had said that you could just run around like a minute or something. I shot him with a Magnum instead. I don't know if maybe the timer hit first, but
it's either you do enough damage to where chicken shit Brad Vickers tosses the rocket, or you wait a minute and a half and then he'll do it without that.
Yeah.
First thing I gotta ask, why the fuck is there a rocket launcher on the helicopter?
Stars, man.
Look,
you never know what you're gonna need on a rescue mission, okay?
And all you brought with a handgun. Like I love there's a scene of them all that somebody made fun of as a meme where they're all standing there holding all these rifles and shotguns, and then they're like, before the mission, they're holding a handgun. Like I know it's because they lost their ammo, didn't bring it, but.
And Forest Sprayer had a grenade launcher for some reason.
Yeah, they have 5 grenades. They have 5 handguns and a grenade launcher.
And a shotgun. The other guy had an assault shotgun.
That's true.
So, but still.
That's kind of explained in the game. Like, everybody has their own little specialties. I don't know whose specialty is just grenade launchers. Like, I don't know what kind of person has just that specialty. We're like,
I
can't.
Even a very common weapon, is it, in war? Like in real war?
It's fairly common. They have like the M203 grenade launchers, and the grenade launchers. Those are a pretty big thing.
They can shoot gas too.
So. They shoot gas. So that is actually used. It's not used for what you think it is. They're not really used for. Grenade launchers aren't really used to kill people. They're more used as we need to clear this building. We need to get people out of this building. So we're going to shoot gas in, or we're going to shoot a grenade launcher in, and just get them to swarm out. That's really what grenade launchers are kind of for.
Okay.
You're not going to use an RPG to kill one person.
No.
RPGs also aren't grenade launchers. But still, same thing.
Rocket propelled grenade.
Unless it's like a predator drone, explosives aren't meant to specifically kill a single person. They're really we're going to clear, we need to clear this area out, or disorient the enemy.
Yeah, take down that little building or something.
Yeah, or take out a vehicle. There's a vehicle we need to remove, or we need to get into this building and there's no door on the side, so let's just blow a hole in the side of it.
Do you guys have any?
Tyrant.
Are you guys ready to move on to list? I have the poll. I did a poll for all the groups I want to mention, and I also have the listener. I have a few listener questions to read too.
Sure.
Well, let's just break down what happens at the end.
We never said that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Man.
We also skipped the part where earlier in the game, you find the radio and you get signal, and you can finally manage to call Brad Vickers, who sucks, by the way. Brad Vickers is a fucking bitch.
Yep.
And you can tell him I said that, except he's dead.
And he's not real.
Yeah, and he's not real. But he's real to me, Mike. Yeah, but you find the radio earlier, and you're like Brad, come in. And it's kind of like garbled, and you can't hear anything. And then later in the game, like you actually do get a signal, and you're like, Brad, you got to come help us. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I'll do what I can.
Yeah. He's like, I'm running out of fuel. If you want to leave, now's your time. Go to the helipad.
Yeah, he's just
And
been
so you go to
flying
the
around
helipad.
all fucking night, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, because the game begins at like, what, like, you'd say 9 o'clock realistically? Like, probably around 9, 10 o'clock. And Brad's, when you leave, it's dawn. So Brad's been flying around for like 8 hours in a fucking helicopter.
I feel like it would be running out of fuel by then, though.
I don't know how much fuel helicopters take, but I imagine 8 hours is a pretty long trip for a helicopter.
I don't think they can go. I've watched too many documentaries, but I think that's a long time.
For that specific kind of, like, it's not a fucking Chinook. Like, it's a
It's not a Hind D.
A Hind D. Liquid Wesker. Same voice acting. Probably why I love both games. Oh yeah, but Stefan, give us the breakdown.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so Brad is like, go to the helipad. And then they go to the helipad, and he's like, holy crap, use this against the tyrant. And so he tosses down a rocket launcher. You pick it up, and you shoot the tyrant. It explodes into a million pieces. Well, I should say there are two endings, because you can either save the other STARS member in the jail cell, who is either Chris or Rebecca or Barry. I don't remember. It's
Jill
one
or
of
Chris
them.
are in the cell.
Jiller. Well,
Okay, and
Barry's also kind of like locked up at some point too.
Oh,
yeah, and yep, and so if you don't save them, then you won't even fight the tyrant. You'll take off by yourself, and the mansion explodes. But if you do save them, then they all get out of there. They get on the helicopter, they ride into the sunset, and the mansion explodes, and everything's dead because there's a countdown. Because it's Resident Evil, and there's always a countdown.
What's funny about that part is, to me, this was always funny, is if you play as Jill, you and Chris and Barry escape. If you play as Chris, you and Jill and Rebecca escape. For whatever reason, Barry does not exist in Chris's campaign, and Rebecca does not exist in... I mean, they exist, but, like...
They're not... You don't ever see them.
Yeah, you don't ever really figure out what happened to them. Like, they don't appear, and you don't really... At no point, like, in Jill's campaign does anyone say, like, oh, what happened to Rebecca? She's dead. Like, it's just... It's one of those things where people talk about, like, the canon of Resident Evil, and you kind of have to merge both campaigns together of, like, Jill was doing this while Chris was doing this, and both Barry and Rebecca got on the helicopter at the end.
Well, because in canon-wise, Rebecca and Barry both, I mean, not till way later, but both showed up in future entries.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, they're Barry more so than Rebecca. Rebecca was kind of, like, disappeared from the series for a long time, sadly.
Well, Barry didn't even show up till Revelations 2.
He was at the end of 3.
Yeah, he's at the end of 3.
Okay.
And he's mentioned in 2 a lot. Like, you find Kendo's gun shop, and you learn about Barry.
Because I remember...
Rebecca is, like, gone. Like, nobody even talks about Rebecca until... God, it's not until, like, the fucking play, right, Stefan?
I think if Capcom says the movies are canon, and I think that newest movie that came out, the animated one that sucks, she's in that, and I think that's the last time you see her.
That's the last time you see her. In between those two things, though, I'm gonna talk about this for a second, because there's something amazing. There's something amazing that a lot of people don't know about, called Biohazard the Stage. Biohazard the Stage is the prequel to Resident Evil 5, and it is a musical, semi-dance based Resident Evil play where Chris Redfield and Piers Nevans have to go to Australia to help the BSAA Oceania branch investigate a university that is overrun by zombies that one of the doctors there is working on for Umbrella. And about, I would say, like 30 minutes to an hour into the play, you realize that the insider that alerted Chris and Piers to the situation is Rebecca, who was undercover there. And that's like the first time she's shown up since 1. And I've watched that play. It's on YouTube, so everyone can go watch it. And I highly recommend you do, because it's so weird and so funny to me. of like weird like dance numbers where I think we talked about it briefly on the Resident Evil 2 episode, but like Chris and Piers are like dancing through the audience, and there's zombies like moaning and like lurking through the audience trying to find them. It's a really like high production play.
Is Rebecca still doing like? Is she like still a scientist or whatever?
Yeah, she's undercover there because she's like the only member of the BSAA that's got like a strong science background, essentially.
Okay.
Like she's one of the smartest. Yeah. So she's undercover, like helping them with the research, and she reveals herself as Rebecca. Like they keep calling her Rebecca, but then she's like, Chris runs into her. He's like, Rebecca Chambers. She's like, that's right. And you're like, yeah, it's Rebecca. Well, I did that because I love Rebecca, but
well, you got a whole game about Rebecca.
Yeah. I might have had a slight crush on Rebecca as a child, and now.
I'm pretty sure it's not slight anymore. From the sound of this.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with Rebecca.
I like Jill a lot, so
I'm stalking Rebecca. And
that's okay. She's not real. As long as it's Rebecca Chambers from RE, it's okay.
No, I always had a crush on Rebecca. And so
Stuart turned to like his life-size Rebecca pillow.
Yeah, I just turn around. I've got like a shrine. It's only got Resident Evil 1 on it.
None of us use camera, so
I'm petting I'm petting a cat wearing a Rebecca wig right now. It's
okay. I think we should start getting to the listener part. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think we're ready.
Okay, because this has been 2 hours. We've already surpassed our longest episode. We're not even done yet. So, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay,
Don't
so I
you
did
guys
a
wish
poll.
we did Evil Dead now?
to be honest, I could still talk about Evil Dead for 2 hours.
That's true.
We'd be going
all right.
movie by movie.
I did a poll in about 5 different groups just to kind of get an idea. I asked people, who do you pick, Jill or Chris? Or never played it, and some people put some other really dumb options like Harambe and stuff, but that doesn't matter. But what does matter...
It's 2019. Stop making the Harambe joke. It's just not relevant anymore.
It's over with.
Find a new dead animal. Use that shit.
And so I did a poll, and Chris, as anyone would expect, had 69 votes, and Jill had 243.
Oh, wow.
So everyone who plays this game as Jill. Like, I mean, everybody.
My question with that is, how much of that is because Jill's is a little easier, and how much of it is because people love Barry Burton?
Or Jill's eye candy.
Or Jill's eye candy. I feel like a
lot of it was the easier difficulty, the inventory space. The same reason why I first played as her, because it's easier.
See, I feel like a lot of people play Jill because of Barry. I don't know if that's true. That's just something I've always believed to be true in my like. I've always thought that was probably the case. I was like, people really like Jill because they really like Barry.
Like especially for his one-liners.
Yeah, I mean it's totally fair.
Yeah.
Barry's a fantastic character. He's just a great character. He's so weird and goofy, and he's like the dad joke of Resident Evil.
Agreed.
I hope this isn't Chris's blood. We didn't make that joke.
I'm surprised we didn't make that joke.
I think we might have said something earlier.
We might have. It's been a long episode.
My favorite original line from the original game is actually Richard's line after he's been bitten by the snake. His voice acting for him being hurt, he's just like, "Ouch!" It's fucking outstanding.
It's been a lot worse than ouch. You got bit by a giant snake. But, we'll take
Yowie! Ooh, that's gonna smart.
All right, I just got a few questions and some memories from people I do want to read. First one from the Overblood group, from Chad Hager. Did you like the direction of first person the series took with RE7, or would you prefer the next entry return to third person? I would say third person because I love third person games.
That's really tough because Resident Evil 7 was such a good fucking game.
I think I'll take this.
Okay.
I think like most people, when I found out it was going to be first person, I was like, that's dumb. That's the stupidest decision Capcom's ever made. They're making a first person Resident Evil game. That's like that. I think I even said at one point, like, this betrays the whole idea of Resident Evil. Like, you need the over the shoulder. You need it to be like the fixed camera angles. That's so important. And then as soon as I played Resident Evil 7, I realized I was a fucking idiot. Like, that game, it somehow changes everything about the way Resident Evil plays and still feels more like a Resident Evil game than some other games in the series. Resident Evil feels closer. Resident Evil 7 feels closer to Resident Evil 1 and 2 than Resident Evil 6 does. And I don't know, like, it's a lot of little things. It's like the atmosphere and just small mechanical touches. And I think that's more impressive than a lot of things in gaming right now. I'm not sure how much time was spent trying to figure that out, trying to like nail that formula of we're going to change. I've talked about this with Sam before. Sam and I were I can't remember, we were talking about like Fallout or something, and I made a point that generally in gaming, when you're playing a third person game, the focus is on the character. The focus is on you're looking at the game, but like the character is always in your eye line. You're going to be looking at your character a lot. That's a big thing in like Dead Space, where you've got the backpack that shows your health. When a game is first person, the focus is on the environment. Everything about the game is like, oh, look at this world we've put you in. That's why a lot of people play Fallout games and Elder Scrolls games first person, because the world is the focus. Whereas people play like Resident Evils and like Dark Souls, those games, you're changing your armor. Like Mass Effect's a great example. You're changing your armor all the time. The characters look really beautiful. They want like a focus to be on the characters. So I was like, well, this is betraying everything about Resident Evil because the characters are the purpose. And they found a way to make the environment more Resident Evil than it ever has been in the past. And that's my very long-winded answer to it. Was a very good idea for that game, and I'm very impressed that they pulled it off so well.
Okay. Yeah. 100% back that. Yeah,
Thank you.
That's a good answer.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I got two more things to read. One from Sebastian. Well, two more things in the overlook here. One from Sebastian. Pronounce that name. What did you think of the voice acting?
I never know if better. Is it games or gamers? I don't know how to say it.
I don't know either.
That's Sebastian?
Yeah, that's Sebastian.
Ellen Sebastian?
Gomez.
Hi, yeah. Sebastian. He listens to the show, too. So.
Sebastian, tell us how to say your name. I'm
curious how many people are still going to be here at this point.
But don't say it. Type it into the comments.
Yeah, don't give us any wait like a week and then DM one of us with just like the phonetics of your name, and let's see if we remember. It'd be really funny if we don't.
Yeah, we might.
The fuck did Sebastian message us?
Some of the stuff that we record, I don't remember until I'm listening to the edit. Like, oh yeah, we said that.
Yeah,
that's happened a few times.
Well, when you do 2-hour shows.
What did you guys think of the voice acting? I personally like it in this version, but then again, I like the corniness. I like making fun of it too. So,
who
wants to take this question?
There's something magical. I'll just go ahead and answer it. There's something magical about the corniness of it, because like what the process was going through that, and that those actors were trying so hard, but they were given like no direction, and it goes right along into like how the original Resident Evil opens up with live action.
I can't believe we didn't mention that. I can't believe we didn't say that.
It just recently got remastered in 4K, by the way.
Yeah, it did. Oh my god!
And it looks
forgot
beautiful.
About that. Well, none of us played the PS1 version for the show, so that's partly why too.
Well, yeah, and so
we have.
I mean, and they get a lot of things right, but they still like are very self-aware that this is still going to be corny. Like I think at one point Barry says, "Here's some grenade rounds, a little mellow yellow for you."
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, thanks, Barry.
They took that out in the remake version, but yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's still self-aware, and it's still like kind of caters to like, hey, you guys remember the first Resident Evil? It's going to be a little goofy, but enjoy it. So I like it. I think it's great.
I can't be sure about this, and somebody else can fact check this. I'm not sure about this. This is just a thing I heard that Mellow Yellow was a nickname kind of along the lines of Agent Orange for some it wasn't like mustard gas, but there was some weapon that was like very briefly called Mellow Yellow, but it wasn't like a very big, like it didn't catch on. So I always wondered if that was like something that like Mikami somehow knew. And they made that a Barry line, but that's a big stretch. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam, just keep scratching your face on your fucking mic.
Okay. Oh shit.
That sounds great.
My bad.
I'm falling asleep here.
I'm trying to use the blanket to like cover the mic so I can cut down on the room.
Professional sound engineer Sam over here. Just
with my shitty mic, my shitty little headphone mic.
All right, I got one more. I got a couple more things, but I want to read this from Bruce Ingram. RE games don't scare me, but a scary memory I have of the remake is having a power cut during my first playthrough.
Oh, God.
When the power came back on, my GameCube wouldn't turn back on. I thought the power cut killed it. It did eventually turn back on, thankfully. Okay,
Holy
that wasn't the story I
shit.
thought it was.
Wow.
I don't know that I, oh man. I
When it
don't know
just jumped off the roof.
Yeah. That might, if I was in the middle of a Resident Evil game and the power went out, I don't know that I'd play the game again for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Hey, just like Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Yeah. Sam is giving me shit because I still haven't beaten 2
It's
Remake.
going to be on the show eventually. About a year, next year, we'll put it on.
Sam, I'll just play it next year.
Listeners, please pressure Stuart Hughes into beating Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Alternatively, you could pressure me into beating Fire Emblem 3 Houses, which I just got.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
Okay.
Look, Resident
another
Evil 2
one
Remake comes out on the Switch, I'll beat it immediately. Make it happen.
from Leonardo Espinoza. When I played Remake for the first time, I knew about the Crimson Heads. I thought I could take one. However, when I heard one get up with a horrible groan, I quickly turned off the GameCube. I don't blame you, sir.
Yeah, we've been
I don't blame you at all.
Look,
Okay.
I have a pretty embarrassing story about when I first played Bioshock. I played Bioshock for the very first time. Right when it came out, I was, God, I don't know how old I was when Bioshock first came out. Somebody else can do the math. I've said I was born in 93. I was like 12 or 13 or something. Maybe I was older, and that would make the story even more embarrassing. But very early in Bioshock, you go to like a dentist office, and it's like the spicers are everywhere. You come to a segment where like suddenly you're not dealing with very many spicers, and like the game kind of gets quieter. And you go around a corner, and there's a desk at the end of this little cubby hole. You go to the desk, and you pick something out of the desk, and you turn around, and the dentist is just right in your face. And I screamed. I turned off my Xbox, and I went back to GameStop, and I returned the game. I was like, this is too scary for me. Please take this back. And I got I got like Jack and Daxter 2 or something in its place. Like something else. Like this is more fun. This is more. This
If
is more
DJ
my
still
age
listens,
range.
he's cursing you right now for saying about Jack and Dexter 2. If he's still listening.
But yeah, I didn't beat Bioshock for like 3 or 4 years after that. Like it scared me so much that I returned the game. So
It was 2007.
it was 2007. So I was 14.
14, yeah.
Too old to be so scared by something
All
that I
right.
returned the game.
One
That's
more
a heavy game.
memory. One more question, then we'll start wrapping this up.
My
Or shuffle
life is
box.
more embarrassing. Don't worry.
From Carrie Chandler. I was never a big Resident Evil fan. This is the only one I
Go to
played
hell.
more than an hour or so. Friends and I rented it while home from college one summer. We were playing it in the dark, and my friend's parents converted a garage. His sister had a ball python whose terrarium was right next to the TV, lit by blacklight. Right during a tense moment, my peripheral vision caught the snake moving. I dropped the controller and screamed. And that's the last time I played a Resident Evil game.
Oh man.
That was
But
funny.
did you get poisoned?
All right, last question from Michael
funny.
Irving. Do you think RE1 is going to get a similar remake like RE2 did? And what will be the impossible to kill thing that's always chasing you?
I don't know if you need
Who
it.
wants to take that? Sam?
Well, so I don't think RE1 is going to get another remake with a first person or a third person view or a non-fixed camera view, just because I don't know. I don't see it working out.
But here's the thing. I'm going to interrupt you right there and say neither of us thought that would work for Resident Evil 7, and neither of us thought that was going to be great for Resident Evil.
Not that
2.
it wouldn't work, but just that if it does happen, it's going to be a long time before it happens, because Resident Evil 1 has stayed fixed camera through at least 6 versions. There have been 6 versions of that game, or different ports and stuff. So they like it like that. There's a possibility they could remake it and it be third person camera. I'm never going to say no to another Resident Evil game, even if it's a frickin' Umbrella Chronicles or not Umbrella Operation Raccoon City. More Resident Evil is always a good thing in my book.
Yeah, I agree with that. It could be a VR game, maybe.
Like
when VR
don't
games
just
God.
fucking say that.
Yeah.
Don't
even
say that.
No.
It'd be great.
Resident Evil 7 has VR, doesn't it?
I'm sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Fuck
does.
I already can't play VR because it fucking makes me nauseous, but like even if I could, I don't think I would play Resident Evil 7 VR. I would have a fucking heart attack.
I heard it was.
Yeah.
I heard it was good, but terrifying. So
I mean,
never happened.
Capcom to me is like above reproach when it comes to remaking their games. Like they know exactly what they're doing. So, like the rumor, and I think it's pretty common knowledge at this point that like Resident Evil 3 remake is going to be coming next. Like that's the common.
We don't know. Yeah. We assume.
Nothing's been confirmed yet.
But that's like the general consensus is that's what's going to happen next. Unless Capcom wants to surprise us and bring out like Mega Man Legends redo, which I am completely fine with. But like Capcom knows what they're doing, and so if they came out and they said we're going to remake Resident Evil 1 and we're going to give it a first-person treatment, we're going to give it like the Resident Evil 2 remake treatment where it's a totally different style of play, I'd still say like, you know what, I've said that this isn't going to work in the past, and it's clearly worked out. So I trust Capcom at this point. I trust Capcom at this point more than I trust most other game companies.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, I used to think like every Bethesda game that came out was going to be great, and then a whole lot of shit happened, and now I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
But to answer the question, no, we probably don't think it's going to be remade.
Not anytime soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what people are saying that Resident Evil, like the idea now is that it's going to be Resident Evil 8 and then 3 remake, and then who knows what happens after that. It might be cool for them to do Umbrella Chronicles or something. That'd be like, or like a remake of the Outbreak games. That might be interesting.
If I complain about one thing, it's that Operation Raccoon City had literally the coolest fucking concept of all games. Okay. All games in Resident Evil. You're following the Umbrella Special Forces, this super secret group you've never found anything about, and they fucked it up so badly. It was such an amazing concept.
May I just say at this point, sir, the crush that I had on Rebecca Chambers, that's how Sam feels about Hunk.
I love Hunk. Oh my god.
All right. I'm going to take this over here for a second. I think we should go to Shelf or Box.
2 hours and 43 minutes into the recording. You think we should?
Oh, yeah, so I got to edit this sucker.
Oh my god, I totally forgot about that, Mike. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Stefan, this is your pick. Why don't you go first for Shelf or Box?
Okay, first off, I'm kind of glad now we didn't do Evil Dead. A little bit. I'm still a little mad.
Yeah, we can do it later. It'll come up. It'll come back when you have hardware. When you have better hardware.
You want to just talk about? Yeah, let's just talk about Evil Dead now.
No, let's not. Let's not at all.
Oh man, to sum up Resident Evil 1. Okay, I'll just say this: when I went through trying to get the platinum for this game and all the fucking hoops you have to go through to get that platinum, I have never. And this is why I'll always advocate for when people play a survival horror game, they should always play it on the highest difficulty. I have never been more intimate with a video game than I have with Resident Evil 1 when I did the platinum and I played it on hard. And I went through all the bullshit you have to do because that was pure survival horror. I mean, every single step I took and shotgun shell, herb, everything. Count it for something, and it really felt like I was trying to survive. So this is going on my shelf, obviously, but that to me is like it's a perfect survival horror game. If there ever had to be one, it would be this one.
Okay, that was good. Sam, since you're the special guest, why don't you go next?
Oh, why thank you. I owned this game on a different system. I think it's for GameCube. When I found out that this game was going to be done for the podcast, I just bought it on my computer again because I didn't have it on my computer. It's that good. It is a masterclass in survival horror. If you enjoy survival horror, this game has to be on the top of your list. Absolutely shelf. Absolutely shelf.
Absolutely shelf or absolutely shelf. Either one.
Yeah.
Shelf or shelf.
I shelved it twice. I have 2 copies.
I didn't mention how while playing this game, Sam, did I say that you snapped me like everything you did?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I was snapping.
You didn't mention that yet.
I got for a whole day. I was just like, I think I was in class that day too, and I was just like, my phone was going crazy. I was like, who the fuck is trying to reach me? And it was just like, you have 20 snaps from Sam Mercer. It's like, what the fuck? And it was just like, look at this fucking herb. High res my ass. Well, it's like every tiny little thing that Sam came across that was at all notable was suddenly an image on my phone.
He needed to know.
As if I hadn't played this game like 10 times since.
All right, I think I'll go next for Shelf or Box. I think it's obvious where this is going. It's going in the box. Not that I didn't enjoy it, because I am glad I finally beat it. I'm glad I did it, but I will never play this game again. I never want to. I never even would have. I'm glad I did it just because I can check it off my bucket list that I beat another game that has always been there, bugging me that I never got around to. But
I'm happy that you played it.
I'm happy that it was on the show, as much as I swore and was very upset and tried to get anything else I could use save states for and did not work.
I don't know Sam, what Sam is essentially saying is, I'm happy that you were unhappy.
That's not what I meant.
Actually, we were going to do Nemesis originally, but Stuart's like, Sam would like RE more, and then Stefan's like, okay, we'll do that. And I'm like,
the second that we said that Evil Dead wasn't going to work, and we were like, oh, we could do a Resident Evil game, I was like, I cannot wait to tell Sam that we are not playing right here, like, because we both love Evil Dead, but I was like, he's gonna like.
So Mike messaged me, and he's like, I'm like,
and you ruined it for me.
Yeah, I did, and he was like, we could play a different game, and I was like, you should play Resident Evil. He's like, yeah, okay. I mean, maybe we'll play like the original. Like, no.
I want to do the original.
Basement theme. Fuck the basement theme. We're playing the remake.
I was gonna message you. Said that I was gonna message Sam. I was like, hey, what's even better than Evil Dead? Guess what we're playing next.
I would have lost my shit. Oh my god.
Well, Mike,
sorry.
did you enjoy Resident Evil 2 or one more? How about that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I was less scared of 2.
Okay.
I don't remember a whole lot. Like 2 was quick. It wasn't too. This game can be felt long at times, and I also felt much more exposed and helpless than I did in 2. But also the graphics were a lot better, and it's a lot scarier when they look more real than they were pixelated. Just
Yeah,
so there's that too. And Stu, how about you? Shelf or box?
Well, I saved for last for some reason.
Because I know, there's a reason.
Because mine's the longest.
Yeah,
so long-winded. Yeah. So obviously, this game is going on my shelf. This is Resident Evil. Is not only one of my favorite survival horror games. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I'd say it's been in my top 5 list since I played it the first time. It's like, it is the prototypical survival horror game. Just look at like 97 to 2001, all the games that came out that were trying to be Resident Evil. Look at Overblood. Overblood was like biting off the success of Resident Evil. Every single survival horror after that was like changed because of this game. It is leagues above everything else, I'd say, in terms of just like suspense and intensity to this day. I mean, so like I said, to this day, the dog jumping through the window still scares the ever-loving shit out of me. It shocks me every time it happens. I know it's going to happen, and yet it still makes me jump when I see that dog come through that fucking window. It's just like, it's one of those games that I just have a deep, deep love for. Everything from the music to like even the tank controls to the enemies to the lore. It's one of the greatest games of all time, and it's one of my favorite games of all time, and it is proudly on the top of my shelf.
The length of this podcast should tell you how good this game is.
Yeah, the fact that this is the longest episode we've done, and it's probably going to be the longest episode we'll do for a long time. Like
for a while.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, like that can only mean the game is really, really bad or really, really good.
Yeah.
This, you just, oh my god, you just don't get games like Resident Evil. Like there's maybe like one Resident Evil generation, right? Like just something that changes how games are made.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just
Resident Evil is so good that they made 7 shitty movies out of it.
Yep.
That's how good it is.
Hey, those movies are decent. Don't.
Hey.
3 is bad.
God damn it.
2 of those movies are decent.
No, 1 and 2, 3 is bad. 4 and 5 I liked and never saw 6. Is there 7? Who knows?
Have you seen
they're going to be on the
media
show.
like decide to watch all of them, and they didn't want to sit down and watch them back to back, so they watched like 3 at a time. They watched Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 on one screen, and then they came back and they watched Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 on the
That's
screen.
amazing.
Yeah, it was a really like fun little experiment they did. I think at the end they were just like, we feel like we are definitely stupider as people for having done this. But, yeah,
All right, I think
every Resident Evil that comes out, I will, even if a Resident Evil game comes out and everyone's like, oh, it's total shit, it's total shit. Like I'm still one of those people that I love playing Resident Evil 6. I think Resident Evil 6 is
fun. It's a fun game.
It's a great co-op game. Resident Evil 5 is one of my favorite co-op games. It's not that great to play by yourself, but if you sit down with somebody and you play Resident Evil 5, that is a fantastic game.
Like, we're getting near the 3-hour mark, by the way. So let's start wrapping this up. I think I should introduce what we're playing next week.
I'd almost say don't even edit this, Mike. Like, don't put this on yourself.
I got to edit stuff. It'd be fine. I'll do it while I do other stuff. I like editing actually now, but I won't not edit the last hour. Who knows? But the next game we're playing next week. Yeah, I should do that. Is we're playing Killer 7. For some dumb reason, I picked a fucking horror game without realizing it. I'm not sure how I feel about that because I knew the game as a kid because I played it when it came out in high school and I picked it for the show. But hey, I really want to play this. I'm going to go back and then and as we're getting close to it, I'm like, oh, this is a survival horror game. What am I thinking?
Is Killer 7 survival? I guess it is.
It is survival. It's considered survival horror. If you Wikipedia, it's survival horror, I think.
We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, we'll go to next week. But yeah, we're playing Killer 7 next week. So if you do play along with the show and I do post everything on Facebook. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram where you'll see images of whatever the upcoming episode we have coming on. If you're somehow still listening, we also have a bonus episode we're going to be releasing later this week about a film. So you can look forward to that. And also, I want to give a quick shout out to the Zach and Dean Geek Machine podcast. If you guys, the link will be in the show notes. Also, our awesome intro came courtesy of Mike Stoney, aka Bulby. I don't know if I said that right. From his song Cool Kid Squad from ZP Bite the Bullet. I don't fucking remember.
Like the first time you've ever said that perfectly, and you interrupt yourself to ask if you said it right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You got that out perfectly, and then stop. Like,
I'm tired. It's been almost 3 hours. I've been up since 6:30 my time. God. I need to go to bed.
Oh my god!
All right. Anything to plug?
Oh my god! Play Resident Evil.
Play Resident Evil.
All right, everyone.
Go play Resident Evil.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even say... I guess we said enough. You know what? Everyone have a wonderful night. We're going to be done.
Yeah.
See ya, everybody.
Oh, my God.
Metal Gear.